host, Peter.
Hey, Dana, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Just finished a little dinner and hanging out.
What the hell have you been doing lately on YouTube?
YouTube.
Not YouTube,
I'm
on X.
on Twitter. I've
On
been in the
X
mix of.
Spaces. On X Spaces.
I've been mixing it up. I've been chopping it up with a bunch of different people.
You cussing people out like what they do.
No, I didn't listen. That's on them. They got to get right with their creator about that. People have been telling me that I don't have a right to talk about certain things, and that they want to blow my brains out, and it's been wild.
Really?
Yep,
Oh
been
wow.
crazy. Yeah, I was in Lloyd Kelly's spaces,
Italian.
so that was why.
So I guess we gotta wait for some people to mosey on into the room. Honey, I set this up, when was it? It was yesterday, right? I think. Or early in the morning, like 3 in the morning, 12 a.m. today. But I think this is a good conversation. Are Africans replacing Black Americans? And I say that, I could put Black Americans in the title, but I think I'm gonna run out of space. But and I came up with this idea because I kind of want to specifically mention Nigerians, but I came up with this idea because Popped Up Balloon, honey, they're going to Netflix. And I was trying to find what multi-million, how much was the deal? Had to be in the millions. But Arlette and her husband, Mr. BM, somehow they brokered a deal on Netflix, honey. So Pop the Balloon is going to Netflix. She got over 100 million views on YouTube alone. So people don't understand the power of social media, especially if you are a content creator, and how you could parlay that into something bigger. So I just found that fascinating, right? That part, that immediate aspect of it. But going deeper, when you look at African immigrants, they are surpassing Black Americans. They are. Uh,
In birth rate, or how are you? What's the metric for that?
they're surpassing Black Americans when you talk about um, socioeconomic, family unit, education, entrepreneur, real estate, and every aspect that, when they do go to college, they're most likely to go on to be a lawyer or a doctor or engineer. In every aspect of our society, I look at it like the African immigrants are surpassing Black Americans in general. And I think I'm looking at it from a different lens. And I think, the more people come in, the more I'm just going to repeat this. But the reason why I think that they are able to come here and just move quickly ahead, they never experience the stigma and oppression like we experience here in America. Now, depending on what country you come from in Africa, they do have their own oppression type thing. But the common denominator is a very strong family unit and very strong community. To whereas here in America, Black Americans lost that. And if you notice, as the Black family declined, so did education, so did our socioeconomic status, so did the community as a whole. So, I do want to talk about Arlette, and I believe she is African immigrant. I know her husband is with that accent. So I could talk about that, but I also want to go deeper into the conversation. I also want to have a deeper conversation. Hi,
Hi, boo. I'm trying to turn my TV down. Give me a second. I can't find my remote.
lovely. So I do hope more people trickle into the room. I know it's a lot of spaces going on, but And this is the thing, because I used to remember, I was like, oh, 45 minutes, get in, get out. But by the time people come in, it's probably 30 minutes already into the damn space. So I'm not going to put a timeline on it, but I don't want to kind of be up here all night either. And shout out to everybody that is watching on YouTube. Hi guys. So yeah, Peter, you want to say anything to the topic? Then I'll go to Lovely.
Sure. I just want to say quickly, like, retweet, and bookmark the space. It helps to push the space out in the algorithm so you get more people and more visibility. And I think you hit all the points on the head about you presented all the data. If the data is showing that, and you are Dana with the data, um, if it is showing that, then yeah, all those metrics matter. And I think the largest metric as well is replacement rate, right? Which I believe black replacement rate is very similar to white replacement rate in the country, which is around 1.5 to 1.62 children per couple, which is not enough to replace the population, which is going to be a huge issue as well. So, yeah, you make sense for what you said.
I just tweaked the title. I took out the fireside. Hi Lovely. You wanna say anything?
Hey, so I just want to make sure I'm on topic. So like we're talking about African Americans and Africans, and basically the fact that like Africans tend to have achieved more for themselves, correct? In comparison.
I was muted. Yes, and maybe I need to. I think I'm gonna match it with YouTube title. So I'm gonna switch replacing to outpacing.
Okay, because that's what I just put it when I reposted it. I was like, "Are Africans doing better?" Because that's a conversation that happens a lot. And as a New Yorker, right? So my friend, she owns a hair braiding shop, and she's had it for at least 25 years, and she's done really, really well. Like, and we work together. And honestly, I feel like I've been able to sit in her spaces and listen to like how Africans feel about Black people in regards to business. And there might be some truth to what you're saying. However, I mean, I think they get more opportunities because when they come over, they're given certain, I don't know if it's like, if it's a part of like their work visa or something like that. I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
And what do you think about Pop the Balloon getting that Netflix deal?
Are you for real? I didn't know that.
I didn't know it
Um,
was that popular.
I mean, I guess I would have to see it. I don't really know what comes from the show. Like, do these people actually date each other?
I thought that show was so elementary, and it is. It's so simple, and it resonates with the younger generation, with Gen Z's and younger and millennials, and younger, younger than millennials, younger than GZs. But you see grown older ass people up there as well. So it's like speed dating with a damn balloon.
Pretty much. But I don't think they're going on dates after that. I think they just
They
doing
go
it because
on
of
dates, but
content.
they never end up in relationships. It's very short term, if no term. Popping a balloon and people rejecting you right there on the spot. And people watch 100 million views on YouTube, and she has 1 million followers, subscribers on YouTube. Listen, they created a business, they created a brand, and I ain't mad at it. To get that Netflix deal, I just look at it. I think for me, as a Black American, I'm like, well, why can't Black Americans do that? A lot of times when you see a lot of these deals being made, it is, even though they look and sound, well, of course they look Black, they look American, but they sound American, but their lineage is not from here. They could be first generation um African immigrants, or just migrated over here. So when they come here, they get the work in from the ground up, and they just outpace.
The girl the person who started the pop the balloon thing is an African girl, African or
Yeah, her and her husband. He's and you can hear the accent. He must have just came over here. She probably was born here, but I think her background is Nigerian. But her
So why
husband.
the fuck don't you go back to Nigeria then, you fucking nignog, gollywog? What are you doing in America for then?
It's a
When you're not
troll.
American? Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I am a troll. Well done, you fucking
So can you
spastic
drop them
nigger.
down? Because I am
That's
on
the way it is, you
YouTube.
See
They're
nigger,
ya.
so
nigger.
annoying.
See ya.
I'm just like, honey, why do they think they really think they doing something?
No, they don't. They just bored,
It's
and
just
they
that's what I'm saying. Like, y'all not knocking nobody off their concentration. We looking at you like you retarded.
they really feel like they accomplished something by just being able to break through the mic and say that. Like it's weird. It's really just boredom and a lack of being able to sit the fuck still.
And they think
Um,
if they say nigger or all this racist stuff, like you really hurt somebody's feelings.
right. It's 2025. We
It's not
don't.
even creative. Like I tell a lot of
Like,
them,
come with
at
something better
least
than
be
that.
creative. Come up with something. Like
Motherfuckers, excuse me. People, excuse me, I just cursed, my bad. People are saying bed wench on here. We're going that far back. No, nobody really cares. So wait, the young lady who is like she's telling them, asking them the questions or whatever, like that's the girl.
Yeah.
Oh, oh. I don't know how I
Right.
feel about that.
Listen, there are other, and so they've had so many other people who do knock off pop the balloon, right? So, and I don't know if that would be a copyright thing. However, well, she got the Netflix deal, so that they own the concept of it. But I'm just saying, listen, when you have a concept and you're organized and you create a plan and a business plan behind it, it will become successful, such as that. And so what I'm saying is, see, I'm a content creator and I'm on YouTube. That's how I make a living. And I've been in spaces, with people who try to, I guess, collab with other people, and it just never can take off. I think what her and her husband did was very creative, even though I could never get into it because I just think it's so tedious. However,
Mhm.
that's $1 million tedious idea, right? But
Mhm.
I'm starting to see a trend that African immigrants, whether it's in entertainment, because Nigeria and Western Africa, they have their own entertainment industry, Noble. So, but no, not not Bollywood. Oh my God, it's not Hollywood, not Bollywood. It's it's something. I think it's called Noble. Let me put. What is that Indian? What do you call the Indian? Bollywood,
I
yeah,
believe so.
Bollywood.
Yeah.
That's it.
right? But Nigeria has something, and I forgot what they call it. Nigerian entertainment industry. I have to look it up. But anyway, they have their own movie industry, and some of that stuff I used to see on Netflix, like their little shows and stuff. And if you notice on Netflix, African, different countries in Africa have their own category on Netflix.
This is something I definitely noticed as of lately. That's a fact. I used to only be able to see those movies when I went to my friend's salon to get my hair braided. Word.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So Nollywood. That's why I knew I was right. Nollywood, Nollywood. Yes. Oh, Katalia said in the chat she likes the sound of your voice, Peter. So yeah. So are Africans outpacing Black Americans?
Okay, so when it comes to entertainment, I don't think so. Now, when it comes to maybe having a small business, maybe because they work together. Do they know how to keep their dollar circulating within their community? Yeah. But when it comes to entertainment, I notice a trend. Like anything that is degrading or makes Black Americans look like we will do just about anything for attention, I feel like they highlight it. And that's what I say. I don't know how I feel about Shorty being Nigerian and having that fucking pop the balloon shit. Same way I feel about the Shade Room. Just being honest. I have a love hate relationship with the Shade Room.
Yeah, the Shade Room. I think they're well. I know they're African immigrants. I don't know if it's there. I think
She
most likely Nigeria.
Nigerian.
Okay, Nigerian. They're Nigerian. A lot of those gossip websites are Nigerian or from Ghana or whatever. They're not of Black American lineage. Um, and then World Star, that's not Black owned.
What?
It's I think they're Persian or Arabs. Yeah, Middle Eastern.
That's crazy.
So a lot of these hip hop magazines and gossip columns and stuff, they are not Black American owned. It used to be. Remember Essence, the woman who is in charge of Essence, she's African.
Oh, I never knew. The woman with the braids?
No, Susan Taylor, she's Black American, but she
Yeah.
retired. So it went through a couple of people who were like chief executive, but the woman who's in charge now, she is African immigrant. I don't know if she's from Nigeria or Ghana, but it seemed like a lot of industries, when you talk about Ebony, Jet, BET, a lot of entertainment industries that we kind of created and cultivated and created a pathway. The new face of that now, it seems like, are
I
Africans.
mean, that's
But
what happened with the Shade Room. Kyle Anthony, he was one of the main people on the Shade Room, doing most of the work for the Shade Room. And then whatever happened, he did speak out about it. And then he created the Neighborhood Talk because I guess him and the Nigerian girl fell out or whatever. And so he's no longer a part of the Shade Room. But I noticed that when it comes to like storylines about Black culture, it's really always like some negative shit that's being highlighted. But when it comes to like Africans, it's like praising them, like praising their look, and it's very rare. And then I remember like even during Black History Month, the Shade Room kept using every other like country that had Black people in it, and I'm like, we have a Black flag, like what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? Like it's just something I noticed.
right. Clockwork says we dropped the entire ball with everything in this country. So I'm just saying that, good for her. Listen, anything that's like a business move like that, and she's a content creator, I think we should take something from that, especially if you're interested in that digital world. But at the same time, I think my question is, and this is where I kind of want to go a little bit deeper. Hi, Carrie. And Des, I think I want to go a little bit deeper is, why is it that they can succeed a whole lot quicker and faster or farther than us? And I really think it's because of that family unit in their culture. I think it's just stronger than the Black American culture today.
Well, it depends though. You can't like because Dana, you raised your children and they're successful, right? So you could attribute it to being a strong mother and helping them guide them to be successful. So I think that you can't speak as like for all Black Americans as a monolith, right? That there are a lot of Black Americans just by virtue of how many Black millionaires there are right now, which I think it's like 1.5 million in the United States. Um, I don't know. You'd have to compare them as a cohort. What's the population of the Nigerians and other immigrants from Africa compared to the population of Black Americans, and then run the numbers and do statistics and a study on that.
Well, yeah, but if you do look at the numbers, Nigerians, but especially Nigerians, but African immigrants here, they are outpacing. Even if you look at Asians, particularly Indians, right? Because Asians is a whole lot of countries. So let's just take Indian Asians. They're outpacing not just Black Americans, but all Americans. And maybe I need to drop Black Americans and just say, are Africans outpacing Americans? Because even if you compare the Nigerians, Ghanans, or anybody from Africa to a white person, they may not surpass white people. However, um, if they're catching up, but Asians already passed white people as far as social economics and even in education. So why is that? What is it that the immigrants are doing that we are not? Whether you're a black, white, or what have you, they're doing something that is producing success and getting further ahead in society than the Americans. So now Trump is in office, and he is limiting um, immigration status or temporary status, more so like to Haiti and certain African countries and so forth or whatever, and even some Indians went back. But with that said, even the immigrants that are already here or immigrants that became citizens, why are they outpacing Americans? And it is a such thing as a saying that immigrant hustle, and I get it, but it's something that they have that we don't, and they're using that to their advantage.
I think it is the fact that they didn't grow up in this godforsaken country, where even the food that we eat and the air that we breathe compromises our thought process. When Black people in almost every state in America were centralized into very bad neighborhoods where we're given very low options. So the reality is, everything is about proximity. So if you wake up every day and you're seeing your own people constantly get killed, let's say you 10 years old and you walk out just to go to school and you see the people getting money are the dope dealers. That's who you see with the gold chain. You don't really we're not afforded the opportunity. So when, Africans come here and other people coming from other countries, they already have a different perception. They got a head start, in my opinion, mentally, spiritually, all of that. Like, they have more of an identity. We don't have an identity here in America. We do, but it was completely stripped from us. So it's like, that's what I think it is. Like, just like I said, when I've had these conversations with my friend who's African and my assistant who's African, and I realized, I'm like, oh, Africans got mad crazy shit going on too in they shit. But it's like, why can they work together and we can't? And I really feel that that's what it is. They just have a head start spiritually, mentally, economically, all of that.
So I just looked it up. So it says Nigerian Americans in 2023 had a medium household income of 80,000, which was higher than the total population. So, however, Nigerian Americans had a slightly lower per capita income, with 43,000 than the total population. Well, 43,000 and 30 dollars compared to the total population 43,313. So that's the median income is 80. So, and the percentage, I don't know, I'll look it up, the percentage of, let's just say, Nigerians here in America, is not a lot. Um, Even though it is an uptick or whatever, but and um they're kind of concentrated in certain areas like New York, Georgia, Texas, stuff like that. But yeah, their medium income is higher than Black Americans. And I'm about to look up that income. Black
Okay, so
Americans.
what is the stereotype that most people have about Nigerian parents? They want their children to go to college to become what?
Doctors and lawyers, like high paying professionals. Yeah.
Is that happening in households in America of Black people? And I mean, the closest thing we had to seeing it as a real thing was the Cosby Show. To be fucking honest, excuse me. To be
Mhm.
honest,
True. So, okay, so in 2023, the median household income for Black Americans was $56,490, which is lower than the overall median household income of 80,000. So, again, Nigerians are 80,000, we are 56. That's a big difference, and they are way less than us, but financially they are surpassing us.
what do you what do you think the reason is?
I think the reason is a family unit, and it's like, so I sat and I thought about it. a lot of times I don't like to go back into time, go back into slavery or Jim Crow, but I have to in order to come up with a rational answer to why are they seceding, and they just got here yesterday. They didn't have to deal with chattel slavery. Yes, they in different countries in Nigeria, in different countries in the continent of Africa, they may have wars and stuff like that in different tribes. But even through all that, and even being colonized, they did not experience chattel slavery. They did not experience quote unquote Jim Crow, even though they probably didn't have as somewhat a lot of opportunities that Black Americans fought for here. However, our family unit and our social economic status throughout the decades from slavery have been increasing, but it got to a certain point, I would say in 1965 until today, you really started to see a decrease in the family unit and in income. So something happened at a certain cutoff point to where we were not investing in family. And it probably, I think it did had a lot to do with the crack era and stuff like that, because in the early 2000s, starting, let's just say starting with the year 2000, it was a significant boom of African immigrants coming here to America. Like it was over 50% increase, and I'll call them the new Africans, but that's 25 years they've been here. In 25 years they had an opportunity to get an education, start a business, buy real estate, and just build wealth. To whereas we were kind of stagnated, and it seemed like, okay, we are doing better, well, somewhat now, but we're like in the middle of we're in the middle of repairing to where we should be flourishing. But Africans come here, particularly Nigerians, and they are already flourishing, especially if they have money or came from some type of status in Nigeria. So we're repairing while they are coming here to flourish. Hi, Carrie.
Hey Dan, um, they're subsidized. Um,
Wait,
and
can you please? I
Carrie,
can't
your
hear you.
mic is very low.
oh man, okay, I'll go down and come back up.
Dana, I had a quick question before Carrie comes back. The last time that you saw Black leadership promote family values in a really productive way was when? And I'm going to say, just off the top of my head, was it Malcolm X, or were the Black Panthers also promoting that, as well as the Black Liberation Army?
I would say they all were, because a lot of them came from strong family units, like you know, mother and father married and stuff, and they were all educated. The Black Panthers, they was just no nonsense revolutionary, ready to whoop some ass, and that's what they did. But a lot of them were, all of them were educated, and they came from a two-parent household. So it wasn't even about family, because you already had that family. It was about, we are working together, you know what I'm saying, for freedom, for rights. And which is, CIA, the government come in, decimated the Black Panther, assassinated Malcolm X, assassinated Martin Luther King. So you talk about great leaders. We haven't had a great leader since then. Hi, who is that? Brick Fair? Hey.
Hey, thanks for the opportunity. I just had a question for you. Well, I just want to start off by saying the median income for Black Americans has not changed since 1960. And by your argument, there were a lot more married Black people in the 60s than now. So the income hasn't changed depending on family union, um, being a family union or whatever. That being said, what do you think caused this degradation of the family in the Black community? You specifically, what do you think?
Dana, you want to take that first?
Yeah. So you said 56,000 in the 1960s. Are you?
No, I said the median income of families in the 60s are about as well. Let me say it again. The median income of families in the 60s for African Americans is about the same as it is now. There's been no gain or loss of wealth since the 60s, since the Civil Rights Act. We are in the same place financially. The
That
only
is
difference
something.
between the only difference between then and now is now they've stolen all the generational wealth as opposed to then it wasn't done yet. So we're not making any more or less money. They just stole all of our wealth already.
Well,
Yeah. So
that is it's tough to deal with, right? Because you have to adjust for inflation as well. So now I would have to argue that no, it's not the same. It's actually reduced by magnitudes because it's so much more expensive to buy basic goods.
So I want to go back to my question here because I don't want to get off of that. What caused this degradation of the family unit in the Black American community?
well, a multitude of things. When you talk about social services, so it's more government social services instead of upward mobility. So public policy should have been investing in Black communities and Black people like they did white women. And in the white community, particularly in suburbia, they created suburbs. And that was like around the 50s and the 60s and even in the 70s. And you talk about interstate highways. So there were a lack of investment for economic mobility in our society, particularly for Black Americans after the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act. And then they ushered in more social services to be reliant on the government. So that's the main thing. And then let's say a decade or two later, or 2 decades later, and then really right after the civil rights movement up until 1980, Black people were flourishing very quickly. So if let's just say if crack never came into the fold, because those communities that was decimated or flooded with crack cocaine, they were actually suburban Black communities. There were nice communities where people were homeowners and everyone had a job, whether it was union or professional. Because I grew up with all my doctors and lawyers and everyone high professionals. They were high professionals. My next door neighbor was a lawyer. Every doctor I had was Black. But as soon as the
Okay,
crack,
I don't.
as soon as crack came into the neighborhood, then that really tore it apart. And again, there was still no reinvestment. So it's a multitude of things. But that's I
Okay,
was definitely go to that as one of the main
I just
focuses.
want. I just want to get to a specific thing here because I think this is very important. Are you? Is it your position that Black people hurt themselves and put themselves in this position? Like we're not getting married, and therefore that's our choice, and therefore we are suffering the consequences of that. Is that what you're saying? Because that kind of sounds like what you're saying.
That
Well,
we put
go ahead, Dana.
ourselves in that position. Well,
We are putting
marriage.
ourselves. Hold on. We are putting ourselves in a position financially where it's detrimental to us by not getting married, by not having traditional marriages. Are you
Mhm.
saying that?
I mean, that is one of it. One of the factors. That's one factor that can help a woman specifically to gain access to wealth is marriage. So that's one aspect. And then it's the other aspect of education, of like what are you educating yourself in as a profession. So it's the solution is not just marriage. That's one of the variables that can actually help in a community when it comes to finance, and when it comes to when you have having children and raising children in a stable home. So that's one aspect of it, but there are many other factors.
Thank you. I just wanted to know your position. And the reason why I asked that, because I work in financing and I'm not a guru or nothing like that. I just do that as a profession. I just, I find myself having these conversations with white people And the first thing they jump to is black people aren't doing this, therefore that happened. And it never gets to the situation of why we're not doing this or what happened to us and the reason why we're not getting married. But for situations like this, like the data is clear, our marriages has nothing to do with our income, well, our wealth that we have in this country. I understand people may have some moral qualms or religious qualms or whatever it may be, but I promise you, the amount that we are going to church to get married has nothing to do with the amount of wealth we have in this country. I
So
just
let me ask you this
I
real
think
quick. Well,
go ahead, Dan.
that's why I'm asking this question. Then I hand it over to you, Peter. One question. So because you work in finance, and if you know, say if you come across white clients or whatever and you have that conversation with them, what are the reasons specifically that they're saying that, oh, black people are not doing this or black people need to be doing that? And the second part of that question, are these white people who are investing their money, I'm assuming, in where you work out, whatever, are they married?
okay. So let me. I work in finance, but I'm not in the stock market. I work for a bank, and no, I would never talk to a client about what black people are. That would be no, that we wouldn't be having that conversation. I'm just saying in my everyday life when we talk to white people on the street, just their general thing is black people aren't in a certain position because they're not doing A, B, C, or D. Name them, right? Marriage, education, you're not taking care of your. It's always something that we're not doing that, and then it gets more into that when you get down and you ask them, well, are you just saying that black people is just something wrong with us and we're unable to do these things? And then it's like a blank open question after that. Because if they say, yeah, there's something wrong with you, then why are we having this conversation? If they say no, there's nothing wrong with you, then obviously we're in this position for a reason. It never gets to that. So I just, as black people, I think we need to be very careful when we start having that kind of conversation because it turns into, at least for white people, you're not being like us. Why don't you go get married and do the shit that we do and you'll be okay? Dismissing the fact you put us in this situation in the first place. I, so that's why I was asking. I don't mean to be accusatory or anything, but that's just what was. Did I answer your second question? Oh,
Well,
are they
yeah,
married?
yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna be honest with you. Most of the clients who call, because I don't take like day-to-day calls. I'm kind of mid management or whatever. I have a team or whatever. Most of the clients that we come across, they're regular white people, poor people. They go through the same problems we go through. They go through the same shit we go through. These people are not all married. These people are not all. There's a lot of shit going on in different parts of the country. Just white people having regular ass issues. Generally, when black people call into the bank, it takes a lot to get a bank account, right? So generally, if you have a bank account and you have to call into my section, you probably got a little. So they tend to be more on their shit and they tend to be married. So maybe I'm not the right person to speak to, but the most of the white clients I get are regular ass clients with less than $300 in their account. Like
I
they're
believe
not
you.
married.
That's the
Like
untold story that is not put out there in society. Go ahead, Peter. I know you was.
Yeah, and this I like the point that he's highlighting, right? So there's two sides of the coin. On one side, you're saying it's disingenuous for somebody who's white or from any other group to say, well, you could just pull yourself up by your bootstraps and do these things that we've done and we're going to get there. And then on the opposite side of the coin, you're saying if they don't do that, then they're going to basically have a lack of agency, right? And you're going to say, well, we're not in control, which basically is similar to can't pronounce the word right now, but making it like you're a child and that you need assistance or you need help to be able to be told the right things to do or the right way to do it. So I could see how both arguments are put forth, but you have to be careful as well because one side you're saying, man, we're helpless. Like all these things have been done to us, and we can't get ahead. But then on the other side, well, you can't get ahead. You must be like a child. We need to give you a handout to help you. It sort of gives you a lack of agency as a person, which is one of the contravening arguments against affirmative action, right? Where people are saying, "Well, you got this job because of affirmative action. You're not qualified." When the person may well be qualified, and you're actually making them doubt themselves by putting that issue forth, where that issue wouldn't be put forth if there wasn't the affirmative action in the first place. That's the competing argument. And I would ask you, Brick, are how are you married?
I am.
Okay. And do you have children?
Yes, 8. 8 of them. Yes.
Eight
And I'm a
children. Wow.
grandfather.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. So, I mean, yeah, then in your situation, you were able to be successful in spite of all of the things that you're saying that held you back. How were you able to do it?
So there's a few ways I can attack that, right? So I joined the military a little bit out of college, or out of high school, couple of years out of high school. But I was not doing the right thing before I joined, right? By no means was I a model citizen, none of that shit. I was doing some wild stuff as a kid. That's why I got 8 kids, right? They're not all by my wife. I had some fun times, but went to went to the army, became alcoholic for a long time. So for a long time, I was like a functioning alcoholic, if you want to call it that. Always held a job though. Always, paid child support, do what I had to do, whatever. But as you go through life, right, and you're making it, so I guess you could always, as an adult, I've always been middle class per se. I see everything else that's going on around me. I live in different parts of the country because of the nature of my job or just where I'm at, what I'm doing. I see different groups of Black people in different areas going through different situations, yet having the same result. I see the effects of gentrification in California and also in New York, where I'm from. The same type of gentrification. 2 different groups of people are doing it, though. I see all of this, and it's like, even if I'm doing okay, I know that most of the people where I'm from don't have a chance. Not to get too into it, but very briefly, I live in Oneida County, New York, right? That you may have heard that on the news because that's where those prison guards been murdering Black people, right? That's 15 minutes from my house. We got 3 state prisons 15 minutes from my house. I see here every day how there's a group of Black people inside this city surrounded by white people. It's like Alabama right outside the city, blue and red. I see them fight back and forth over who gets to police Black people harder. And then, so if there's one of me inside this city, or there's probably 10 more, because this city's only 50,000 people, right? So yes, there are one-off stories of Black people who do okay, I guess, but by no means is that good enough.
Is
And
1.5 million would you consider 1.5 million out of 40 million a one-off?
It
What does that
depends.
come out to? What is that? That's
If
like
we're
what,
talking,
2%?
so
A
if
little
we're
of
talking about, that's if we're talking about rich people, that would be great. But I'm not rich by any means. I'm middle class, and I'm just all right.
Well, the reason I gave you that number is that's the number of Black millionaires in the country right now. 1.5
Oh,
million.
being a millionaire means nothing, and I'll tell you why. Because ethnicities aren't successful in the social context unless they own property, unless they have something to pass down the generations. Being a millionaire is only liquid assets. If you can't pass that down, that means nothing. It
How are
doesn't
you
mean
assuming
anything.
that they don't have real estate and other assets they could pass down?
Who? How am I assuming that? The numbers bear it out. Black people own nothing in this country, damn near.
What
Nothing.
I'm saying is, if there's 1.5 million Black millionaires in the country right now, where are you getting the data to assume that they don't own assets that they're going to
So
pass down to their
is
kinfolk?
it
Oh, I'm not
is it
talking about
millionaires in
them.
income? And I'm gonna come to you, Carrie. But is it millionaires in income or millionaires with their overall portfolio?
I
Right.
believe it's mixed.
So
It's mixed.
I'm not talking about millionaires. I'm talking about everyday people. Of course millionaires are gonna have assets to pass down to their children. Millions are not going to save black people though. Is that how wealth works in the white like the white life? The
But
white
hold
people
on, the
only have
crux of your
money.
argument was that there's not many, there's only a few outliers. I'm the only outlier in this conversation in
No.
Oneida County or Oneida section of New York, right? And so how
So
many there's
maybe hold on. So maybe we should need to change that. I'm not anybody special. I'm just not almost homeless. Like there's almost like not a black middle class here. I don't know if you can imagine that, but there's like 80% of the black people here just don't have shit. Having a car is a luxury. You can get a car for $2,000. That's a luxury here. So I'm not. I'm just saying I don't know how to. There are no rich people. There are no rich black people here, so I can't speak in that context.
All right. Well, I want to go to Carrie. Carrie, let me see what you sound like. The audio.
Do I sound
Yeah,
okay?
better.
Okay. Okay, great. Um, what was the question? Oh, are they outpacing us? Um, well, I don't think so because I don't think the playing field is a rational place at all. Um, Everything is topsy turvy. There's measurable discrimination between people who identify as African American and people who identify as Black. And that's very granular. And I think that other Black people are doing that. Um, we have been surrounded um, by people that look like us. We've been told that these people are us. We've had people trying to Africanize us. Psychological games are played on us. They're testing curriculum on us, all to displace us and to have us identify with something that I don't believe is authentic. Um, and so if that's happening, it's no wonder that we're having problems when it comes to educational outcomes. We even though our numbers didn't change when affirmative action was shelved, you know, our numbers did not change. The type of psychological pressure that's put on us is extreme, and we have people harming us in medical still. Even though those faces seemingly have changed, because if the crack wasn't in the neighborhoods, then the people who brought in the crack wouldn't be in our neighborhoods, or if they were, let's just say if laws were actually carried out, the people that got busted bringing in the crack, they would have been deported. Nobody was getting deported. We have major criminal syndicates that are going on. I passed 6 spas on my way to the grocery store. If I take a different way, there's 6 more. We have people. How are they in homes and they're making these little wages? Well, they have underground black market economies, and they're not taxed. And so how are people able to come across the border? The average education coming across the border this time was 5th grade. This is not, are you smarter than a 5th grader? Okay, I may not be. Okay, this is 5th grade in a very, okay, coming over the border and they're in homes in California. The type of wages that they're making in the construction industry is $14 to $16 an hour. An American would be getting paid, 28 or whatever. It'd be union, whatever. This is that's so little money. How are they in homes? Well, their floor is on top of our heads. So these Haitians that were coming over, and this is new immigrants too,
What
and
is that
I can post
noise?
this.
What is that that's
somebody's
buzzing?
Their
vibrator.
wages for every sector of the economy that they're in,
Yeah, can she hear
for
us?
every stratification by
Gary, can you
age.
hear me?
Um, oh, maybe you can't hear me. Can you hear me? Oh, you can.
We we,
Could you
we
hear
can
me?
hear you. There's something's vibrating.
Oh, 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 yeah. Oh, my alarm was going off. I'm sorry. Is that better?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
They made $2,000 more than us. It'd be black, and I'll post it, and it'll be Haitian. Comparative side by side, all the way down. I'm like, okay, so how, and then you add in, language, it's just not possible for them to be doing better. They are given the means to do better, and they're also not punished in any real way according to laws when we're held to the letter. So it's fake. We found out through USAID and all this money, they've been getting lots of money. So it's money, honey. That's why they're doing better. I'm not going to say that there aren't smart people or they don't deserve their degrees or whatever or to be a doctor, but I know that things are not better, and I think a lot of people agree things aren't better. And so if they're not making things better, to me that's part of the problem, especially when we're getting the discrimination. Yeah.
So I do see people, they host spaces, and they host spaces about Black immigrants and stuff like that. Listen, if you come here and you hustling and you getting stuff done, who am I to sit up here and have a problem with that? This is the land of opportunity. I think for me though, what I don't like is when people want to judge or talk down on the Black Americans, because the reason why you have a lot of Africans that may be outpacing Black Americans is because of all the sacrifice that our people before us um, put in to have these freedoms. But I just feel, even in a lot of spaces that I hold, and even when I talk on my YouTube channel, that going forward, I'm sorry, like there is literally no excuse. We know the reasons why, but now we have to come up with reasons and solutions to not repeat it and to move forward and to flourish. And if we don't have the basic necessities as far as organizing and things like that, we're always going to be at the bottom to damn near extinct. So when I say, are Africans outpacing Black Americans? Yes, but so are Asians, um, shit. So are the illegals, because they were able to get all of these damn resources. Now they gotta, so they receive social service resources from the government, state and federal. But the difference is the resources that they receive literally were to help them get an economic uplift to be independent. To whereas we never received none of that. So I don't know. They are outpacing. I think we get distracted too easily on silly stuff, and I think Black Americans, we really need to just come up with a plan to succeed, because that's not happening. How to Black?
Admit the truth for
Hey,
one.
Miss Di.
This is be done
So,
to us
pre,
on purpose. Like that's step one. Like
Oh, go ahead, the Black.
what's up, Dana,
Hey,
Peter, everybody else in the room? Uh,
Hey man.
I wouldn't just necessarily say they outpacing us, because like you just said, they get special set asides to make it seem like they're doing better than us, if you can say that. And then like the way they're numerized is very different. Like it's like 5 or 6 of them in one house, and compared to most Black American families, you either single or you living with somebody. We really don't have that many people in one house just bringing in an income. And then like a lot of these Africans end up being scammers. They have fake degrees and shit. So I feel like we just been at a stagnant pace where we ain't went up or we ain't went down, but uh the lower half of us have always been over projected in the media, and it's an extra lens on the bottom few of us, which I hate that, because no matter what happens, you can it's like you can just grab at the bottom and like, here, you can look at this and say that. And it's like, but we have many examples of the contrary where like it's like we got a lot of square what people would call square ass people that just live their everyday lives out the way. Don't mind, like ain't doing nothing. So it's like I rather project those people in society the most, and less of the bottom half in the small top few that we have. Like let's focus on the actual regular folks.
So let me ask you this question though: do you think Africans are outpacing Black Americans?
No, I think they out scamming us for sure.
So you think that, but their income, which is higher than ours, they're making
Yeah,
more
it
money.
is. But
You
some of that
you think
okay,
it's due to scamming?
scamming it and then they using the same loopholes as everybody else. Or well, as the high class society. Like most people using credit cards, imaginary money. Like
Mm-hmm.
most black people working off of real cash. So when I say what I feel like most people are cash poor except black Americans.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Most
real
people
quick,
live off imaginary paper.
with who is this? Seek something. CEAKS Seeks says Black Americans have received more resources than any of these groups. Are you serious? Um, well, technically, no, we have not. And here's the thing, now, because I'm not going to sit up here and make it seem like we're a victim. We're a victim because I said I'm not doing that because you got to choose either going to be a victim or a victor. But people, so immigrants, depending on where you land at and what state or whatever, they don't get access to certain things, but then they get access to other things. And if it's harder for them to get access, let's say to a business loan or buying a home or whatever the case may be, the main resource that immigrants have that we lack is the sense of organizing. They know how to organize and they know how to work together. So if they didn't get any type of resources here, they were able to still pull their money together. And I think it was Steve Harvey gave an example that he said he knew this Mexican, and this they do this type of operation in a lot of immigrant communities, to whereas they will all pull their income taxes together. Say if you have a family of 5 or 10, when it's income tax season, everyone file for their income taxes, pull all the money together, and buy one house for one family, right? So if it's 5 families, the first year we pull our money together, we buy a house for that first family, do the same thing the following year for the second family. And then after 5 years, you're talking about people who have 5 homes, right? And you probably end up having more homes sooner than the 5 years. So that is a community working together. We don't do that as Black Americans, and maybe we used to, but I would say after the 1970s, a lot of that stuff, as far as us being a community, had fell to the wayside. So even if, to your point, Black Americans have received more resources than any other group, you know, um, okay. And again, I think sometimes as Black Americans, we do need to be accountable for our lack of initiative. And that's not really a popular thing to say. Go ahead, Art.
Yeah, the idea that they sit there and pull the best and the brightest from everywhere, not just Africa, but the best and the brightest from everywhere. So just think about this. They pull the best and the brightest from Africa, then they come over here, and then their best and brightest, you're telling me somehow does maybe slightly better than our average, and that's a flex? Like how? Because if we took our best and brightest and moved it to Africa, the gap would be so great. It would be laughable to say the least. So I just don't know what metric we're measuring this on.
You know what? Thank you for saying that, because that is a great perspective. I agree, because what if the best of Black Americans move to Ghana, move to Nigeria? I think it would be the same results that we are seeing here when it comes to outpacing. We will outpace um, some Nigerians, the Nigerian population in general over there. And Seek again, I hope I'm saying pronouncing your name right. He says, I guess he got upset. He must be African. He says, scamming question mark. We come here and in one generation obtain degrees and move out of poverty. I have tremendous respect for what Black Americans have done in paving the way, but we are not your problem. This whole conversation is not about, I'm not saying that Africans are Black Americans' problem. That's not what this conversation is about. This conversation technically is about Black Americans taking accountability um, of not moving forward.
See, this what makes me
And
mad
I want to push back
about
against
the.
that too. Black Americans move forward drastically. They're great. It's just this little thing that when you have, and I told somebody in the other room today, when you're allied with an enemy. So if I go get black Republicans and then let them run down black Democrats, they'll do it with efficiency. Amazingly, when they have the same target, the same enemy, the same thing that they're going for, black people just are so diverse. We don't have the same enemy, the same target, the same. So like, but would you ever get us on the same page? It's a wrap. It's clear as day. It's over.
I just feel like it's disingenuous for them to say that because yeah, they come over here. Some of them, they first generation work hard, make sure the next generation go to school and college, but they stagnate after that. When you look at the third generation, which is a small population, they don't do that very well. They get stuck in the stagnant pace of what America is, and they start struggling and being average. And I always wonder, like, if they the best and the brightest, like, why they never go back and be that in their own countries? Because they could really go back with the American education and be great and take the same ingenuity that we have here and develop our countries and be considered kings.
Yeah, but in diverse countries such as America, um, and you can see this in Egypt, and you can also see it in Rome, because I would argue they were diverse as close as you can get diverse prehistorically. Um, the leaders favor the foreigners because they usually pissed off the domestic population, and then they gotta bring in the new population to replace that population because they gotta have some backing because it ain't gonna they're not gonna get it from the normal citizens. So like, and that's why when Africans say that they're coming here and they're outpacing Black Americans, that's by design. It's probably the same way that Europeans come here and probably outdo a lot of white Americans. Like you know what I mean? If you think that's not by design, I got a bridge to sell you.
Yeah, new fresh brains. Everybody here already drained and stuck in the flow. So of course people gonna be somewhat stagnant here. Like if most everybody was like stress free and didn't have to deal with the bum rush of everyday life. Like most people will be out here creating things to be honest, like they did back in the day. Like people had times to create things. That's what started so quote unquote civilization. We had crops growing, so we had more time to be idle and create things and think. So when you got everybody running at a steady pace trying to survive, you're not gonna have people out here actually being able to sit down and be creative like we supposed to.
Let me throw this out there, and then we go to Chip, and then JV. So there are, African people who come here and, they doing the damn thing or whatever. And then more than likely, 9 times out of 10, they're living around Black Americans. We all living around each other. But I wonder, so you take Pop the Balloon, Arlette and her husband, they created Pop the Balloon. And I wonder though, it's like, yes, they do live around Black Americans, but when it comes to business, are they really willing to do business or have a partnership with Black Americans? Or is that when they delineate? It's like, yeah, we respect each other, we live around each other, our kids go to school together, But when it comes to developing a business, such as Pop the Balloon, that entertainment thing, or what have you, real estate, construction, do African immigrants do business with Black Americans? I wonder. I don't know, but
It's parasitic for sure, especially in like in the construction business in Texas. It's parasitic, and that's with really all groups that deal with us.
go ahead, Chip.
Hey Dana, hey everybody. No, I just wanted to come up because I felt like some people were like, kind of sounding ignorant. I came, like my family came here in the 90s, as a lot of my community did. They immigrated here from Russia. One of my friends is Eliante. He's a big jeweler in the Diamond District. He does the chains and the grills, a lot of the jewelry for a lot of the rappers, like Future and all these guys. Another one who was selling hot dogs in the 90s was Jacob the jeweler. Another one was Avian. Like, my point is, these people came here, hustled their asses off. They were getting welfare in the 90s. And that's what I feel like the African people are. They came here and they got opportunities. This person sounding ignorant because he hasn't traveled the world. I guarantee you he hasn't been in Africa. I have. If you stay there for a month, you will come here, kiss the ground, and do whatever you need to. You will hustle harder than any. I listen to these people,
Hey,
and it's
Chip,
like, nah,
what
dude,
what,
you're
what
you
culture
just want to
did
hustle.
they come up
Yo,
off of
bro,
though?
I've been listening to this, and I'm like, bro, you sound like somebody who's never been out of the country, and you're like a
I'm just saying,
Twitter,
like,
you're
what
like a
culture did they
Twitter
come off
warrior.
of? Come
It's
up off
sad,
of?
bro. No, because I see, like, bro, I see, like,
Isn't
there's
it
an
parasitic?
African
They
spice shop downstairs, right? I live in the hood. There's an African spice shop downstairs. I come to, I'm like, yo, you really are holding down this whole business selling spices? The guy showed me he has 13 other locations. He brings in spice. Like, do you understand
Are
what
are
a
you comparing America to a third world
no, I'm
country?
you. No,
No,
no. It says are
America's a
Africans
third world
outpacing
country
Black
now.
Americans, brother. Listen, the
No, I'm
space
trying
is
to get. You
Africans,
said you
and
didn't travel to third world
I'm telling
countries.
you why the
Can you
work
compare
ethic.
America to a first world country for me?
Wait,
I'm
let
In
comparing.
let
regards,
let Chip
I'm telling you
finish.
a third world
Let
country
Chip
is
finish, and
outpacing
then y'all
you.
guys can
I'm telling
rebuttal.
you a third world country is outpacing you, and the first world Black people that are here, like Jay-Z and the billionaires and the ones that are doing it, they're not complaining about their system. They're taking advantage of the system. So come hearing you, listening to the FBAs and all the other people that are crying
so you
every
can't
single day
compare
about how they
America.
can't do nothing with the system when I see everybody else killing the game. I'll give you another example, a tiny example. I see Peter on stage here. I don't want to dox him, but I don't want to say anything, but like some of his business associates, some of the most successful business associates that I know in real life happen to be Black. We're in the same business together. They never ever complain. They're always
So they must
caking.
be African, no?
It doesn't matter. What I'm trying, my
Peter,
point
are
is,
your Black associates African, Peter?
The
my
one the one in particular that he's talking about that is the most successful is from Compton. He would be defined as a foundational Black American,
Mhm.
and he is very successful, making well over $1 million a year, and that's it, and that's in profitability.
So you okay?
Yeah,
So
but you
so
know
your
that's him
Yeah,
though,
Dana.
associates are
bro.
That's why
Black
when I
American.
hear, that's why when I hear these, that's when I hear
Yes.
these spaces sometimes, and I'm like, yo, what are these people talking about? It's like victims, right? Right? It's like people who are making themselves victims when they have an opportunity. I'll give you an example. Right now, the system is collapsing. Markets,
That's
prices.
Ansodoto.
Listen, stop speaking. Let me finish. Prices, look, things are being, you could buy things for pennies on the dollar, stocks, whatever you want. People could be making moves right now, but instead, what are they doing? They're here crying, saying how the system is built against them, blah, blah, blah. Like listening to this for days, I'm like, guys, do you realize that? Like, I'm calling my father overseas. I'm like, Dad, listen, There's this thing called Nvidia or like Tesla. He has no idea. He's like, how do I do this? And I'm looking on YouTube trying to explain to him how to buy stocks.
It's
Like
because
you
y'all want
understand?
to
Like
play with
right
this
now, there's so many
imaginary money.
opportunities, and instead of arguing here about our African people or like I hear like black like
Do you
North
have any
Carolina,
actual data or
Well,
just a lot
wait,
of
hold on for a
anecdotal?
second,
dude.
Chip. Because nobody, well, the topic is not us complaining about Africans. It's just a question of, are
No,
Africans
I
outpacing
understand,
Black
Dana. I'm just
Americans?
saying, like the people that get a chance to complain, they'll throw any. One day it's like they're complaining against the Africans. The other day they're complaining against the Jews. The other day they're complaining. It's every single day. Like, bro, stop complaining. Start hustling. We're in America. We got chances. We got choices. We're not living here and taking showers in sub-Sahara Africa with no water, like fucking
You
reusable
keep comparing
water.
America to third world. You don't think very
Because their
highly of
space
America
is
So,
enough.
okay, so
Africans
Chip,
Maybe you
okay,
outpacing
so
should get
listen,
Black
him out of
Chip.
Americans, right?
America.
So Chip,
We're say
so
Africans
earlier,
outpacing Black Americans.
so earlier in the conversation, right? Um, I said it is about taking accountability, and not just Africans, but other groups. You talk about Asians, they're outpacing everybody. However, when we talk about Black Americans, and I said, what is the difference? Why is it that someone from Nigeria could come here and quote unquote outpace Black Americans? Well, even though their country, you could, for the most part, is technically a shithole, but the common denominator that these different countries have is a very strong family unit. And after, I would say, the 70s going into the 80s, Black American communities um, um, were torn apart, basically, when we talk about drugs and certain public policies. And then the history here, even if they came from a war torn country, it was not the same type of racism, or discrimination or Jim Crow or nothing like that the Black American experience. So our experience is different from any immigrant. I don't care if African, European immigrant, doesn't matter. It's different because we were already here. So fast forward, right? And after the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act and all these other public policies, Black people begin to have a serious uptick. But then our community, which were suburban communities for Black American communities, were decimated with crack cocaine, and that lowered the value of that community. People were strung out. People quit their jobs or lost their jobs. High crime. So when you have high unemployment, crime is going to increase. Drugs crime is going to increase. It was flooded in our community. If drugs were flooded in the white communities, it would be the same situation, but it was not. And it was purposely put in our communities. And now what we're doing today is repair. So fast
Dana,
forward,
that's a
I'm not
terrible
finished. Let me
arg.
finish.
Dana,
No,
I've
no, no,
lost. I've
no.
lost.
Let me finish. So fast forward today in 2025, when you look at the Nigerians, I think it sounds like I'm picking on Nigerians, but I'm not. But when you look at the Nigerians or someone from Ghana, they come here, and it's just a couple particular things that happen because they never had to experience a broken family unit. They never had to experience policies from their government to decimate their community. So it's a disconnect, which kind of gives them an advantage. And that can go for other immigrant groups as well.
They've experienced civil war. They've experienced unrest. Look at any of
So
these
I no,
African
I and I
countries.
And
and
their
I said
families
that
weren't torn
earlier.
apart.
Civil war and unrest, but it was the country. It wasn't your government saying we're going to issue policies to separate families. Now, slavery separated families. Fast forward, what policies separated families in the modern day times? Black families. When you talk about the crime bill, sending young Black men to prison, that is separating families, destroying the families. When you usher in a whole lot of social resources, such as welfare and others, that is separating or diminishing the Black family. So we literally did have public policies for the purpose of destroying not only the Black family, but the Black community and Black men. Because your community and your lineage is only as strong as the men. If your men are, well, not saying that Black men are weak, they're not. But when your men are locked up or put in a situation to where they can't provide and protect their community, then that whole that race, that lineage is going to be weakened. So that's the difference. So Civil War, yeah, but you could go and try to flee with your whole family. Do you get that? It's a
Dana, what
difference.
about like getting killed? And like, think about Rwanda, right? Like these people,
Why do you keep doing third world countries? Can we compare
because
it
we're
to
speaking about
Switzerland?
Africans
You
outpacing
know,
blacks.
Tina
And I'm
Turner
trying to
moved it.
drive a point that if you
Wait,
Hold
wait,
see
on,
wait.
Tiff.
So
see
let him
something
wait.
like
What
that,
was you going to say
and
about
then you come
Rwanda? What was
to
you going to say about Rwanda?
like imagine you see a genocide or something like that happen, and then you come here to this country and you're given a chance to succeed, right? Like what would be able to stop you? I don't
Okay,
understand.
then.
Like
So pause right there, Chip. Exactly. So Black Americans have experienced a genocide, but we never had a country to go to start over. So in Rwanda, even though they really didn't come here, but they probably went to Belgium or to the neighboring country. But anyway, other countries, when they experience whether it's a genocide or a civil war, if you had an opportunity to come, particularly to America, because everyone wants to come here because of land opportunity, they had that opportunity. So we did have a genocide committed on the Black Americans, but we had nowhere to run. We have to
And they
constantly stay here and fight against it.
and they come here and be parasitic because those two examples of people that came over here with their
And
$1.75
honestly, let's
like
let's move
everybody else.
away real quick because you're talking about you keep going to different African countries. That's the
No, I ain't
same
talking about
for
no
that. I'm
African
talking to
countries.
Chip. That's the same for European. You talk about yourself in Russia or what are those Czechoslovakia, all those Eastern European countries. Same thing. When you if
Yeah,
it's a
that's the example
genocide,
I was
if
gonna
it's a
give.
I'm talking wait 1 second to Black because this is for Chip. When you're talking about civil war or genocide or whatever, look at the Holocaust. You come here and you could start over. We never had anywhere to go. So we're constantly fighting against a system for better treatment. And then we have to repair ourselves. So, but at the same time, immigrants are coming here and they're starting fresh on a new foot with policies that will benefit them. Yes, they do receive public policy. They just don't talk about it, and they're able to progress, and they have their family intact. So yes, there is accountability that Black Americans need to take, but at the same time, our government, you know, intentionally committed a genocide against Black Americans. I want to go to JV because he hasn't spoken.
Yeah, thank you so much.
But Dana, just real quick, I just want to understand you. So by your with what you just said, everything is stacked against Black Americans,
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
right?
let
I
me
just
let
want
me
to
make it
understand.
more clear. Let me make it more clear for you because I don't play the victim card here. The history of America is to make sure that Black people are always in a subservient um, position, servitude position. That's the history
And
here.
we mean black ethnically, not racially, to be very, very clear.
Please don't interrupt me. So when we're talking about Black Americans here, from the time the Mayflower landed, the purpose that they had for Black people were to be in a servitude position, whether you're enslaved or not, even after slavery. So throughout the centuries, throughout the decades, the fight, and they have fought and won. You had our government that would come up with all these different policies to push us back. Now, it affected a lot of other Americans too. Make no mistake about it. White people get caught up with the government. However, the government always kind of made sure even the poor white have an edge over Black Americans. But I still don't consider myself a victim because throughout the centuries and the decades, so many Black Americans sacrificed their lives and their livelihood, to where they were killed, murdered, what have you, so that I can today have the freedom and resources to not only repair but to flourish. But I'm just saying, Black Americans need to capture that mentality and not so much stay in the past. But yes, our government has constantly committed genocides against Black Americans, and a lot of people of all backgrounds, immigrant or not, they never want to admit to that, or they have some type of contention towards that narrative. But that is a fact. But go ahead, JV.
Oh, yeah, thank you for that, Dana. So I just want to get into it, right? Are Africans outpacing Black Americans? I think the title seems a little, milk toast or not combative, but it's definitely hostile because what you're doing, you're creating a model minority argument. Uh, that other people are able to enfranchise and scale in a way that we're not. And while that could be true in some levels, why is it true? It's true because they're not, like they said, they're not subjected to the same impediments and systematic failures that we have to engage with. And it's been proven time and time again. I think one really good reference I use is a book called American Apartheid written by some guy named Massey something, and he shows that people from abroad when they come here, they're not met with the same challenges that we are through racism, through discrimination. I know people like to pretend like that's not real and let's say we're victims, but no, these things are real. The DOJ just sued the financial institutions, car lenders, the 2008 crash because of these specific things. So if you're not subjected to that and you could hustle, as the brother said, without having those impediments, naturally you're gonna scale. Like that's just a thing. You're not met with obstructions and you can do what you want to do, unlike how you were able to grow and scale in your own country, because you had some impediments through oligarchs or plutocrats, whoever the fuck you're running from. Like those things were real. So you left, you came here, you weren't met with those levels of barriers, and you got on, and nobody's mad at you. Get on. But I think the issue is that you're in an environment now, you're part of an ecosystem. Why tell somebody that I'm doing great as a reason to do what? Are you trying to message that that we should have more benign neglect? We shouldn't have any infrastructure? Like, what do you want to happen now that you did good? Like this is fucking weird. This is hostile. I would never go to another
Yeah,
country.
lay off the F word, please.
Yes, ma'am. I would never go to another country and have an ability to develop me and my people and say, hey, look at you guys. You guys were not able to do this. The most I would do, or the least I would do, is say, yo, look, I found a way. I found a interesting, like, little kink, and I can get you to get on how I got on. Like, why would I go to another country and tell the natives there that there's something inherently wrong with them? So I think that's the issue. And to pivot back, the fact of the matter is this: people come here and they get next to the status quo. And what the status quo has been doing is finding ways to keep Black Americans down through most of the things that I just mentioned, through benign neglect, through policies, lack of investment, and all those things. So, I mean, you just want to be part of a hostile thing. I got a lot of noise overpass, so I'm gonna mute up.
Okay,
Dana, I
appreciate
just I just feel like assimilation, jumping off this gentleman's point, is a big hurdle. It's not like these people just come here and start working. Like personally, I had a time when I spent 6 years overseas, and just for me to assimilate and to understand what am I getting into and what's going on, it took me like 2 years. It was foreign to me. So when they're coming here, from the clothes they're wearing to learning how to put on deodorant, going into the shower, they have to. It's not like they just come here and hit the floor running. They have to assimilate.
They
Um,
kind of
so
do. There's
noise,
not much
Wait,
of an
hold on. I
real,
want to
assimilation.
get
real
to
quick.
Carrie. I
No,
want to wait 1 second, guys. I want to go to Carrie. She had her hand up. Go
hold on,
ahead,
I had
Carrie.
noise. I want to
Oh, and then
finish.
I'm gonna go to Jarrah.
Hold on, I had noise. I want to
You
finish.
can go first. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to finish. Nobody's mad at you guys are assimilating, but to what avail? Like you're assimilating to do what? To be oppressive as well? Like you assimilated and you made your due, you made your claim, and now you're excelling and all these great things. Good for you. But what now? Why are you now messaging that something is inherently wrong with us? Like you're here, you see the disenfranchisement that we have to be met with that you're not. So why would you now like make an argument that hey? I did good, bro. You okay? What the fuck is? I mean, I'm sorry, Dana, but why would you now like create the same environment of hostility that we've been met with before you got here? Like, what is your purpose? You know,
I'm
like
just
So Chip,
bringing a
well let me
conversation.
interject because Chip,
I'm
you
not even
saying
black.
that. Wait 1 second, Chip, because you said you had to assimilate. um okay, you, if you are an immigrant and you come into America, you have to assimilate the way you have to assimilate. But even Americans, depending on what environment that we in, we have to assimilate. I'm from the East Coast. I'm from the tri-state, from New Jersey, Northeast Orange to be exact. Say if I move to the Midwest, which I did, I have to assimilate to my new environment. So honestly, you are painting immigrants as some victims, and they're not. Just like Black Americans, we are not victims. But is it true that our government has specifically um, used genocidal tactics against us? Absolutely. But I am not a victim. So don't come up here saying, well, we have to assimilate. Everybody has to assimilate when you're in a new environment. But hold that thought for a second, because Gerard, he hasn't spoken. Go
Dana,
ahead.
respectfully, assimilating, right? Like from one state to another is completely different than traveling
No, it's
the
not.
ocean. Yes, it is. And
You
learning
wouldn't have
a
came to
completely different
America, sir.
language, a
In
completely
one
different
way,
culture.
it's
It is
Yeah,
the
but
same
if
completely
thing
you
in
different
know that,
countries.
unless
if
you
you
It's
have the
the
know,
next
wait,
thing
hold
is
experience.
on,
so
but
private.
if
You're
you
not even
know that you are
qualified to talk
coming
about this.
here to America, then don't you think that you should learn English before you come here? You're planning to come here. You know who are the best
Thought it was
assimilators
better
in the
here.
world? Asians, and particularly Japanese, Chinese, those Asians, but and even Asians from India. Asians are the best assimilators. And not only do they assimilate to see, okay, what is it like here in America, but they are assimilating as far as how they make, how do American negotiate their business deals. Like they assimilate so that they can master whatever environment that they're in to succeed. So that's no excuse with the simulation shit. But let me go to Gerard.
Yeah, and Donna, I appreciate you allowing me to speak. I'm just gonna
What is
list.
Dana with the long A? Dana with the long A.
I'm so sorry. I always do that, Dana. I think this is like the 100th time I've done that. This is sad by now. Um, Look, I'm gonna listen a little bit more because I want to hear what these other speakers are saying. But I pretty much agree with what you're saying, Dana.
Yeah, so the question of the space, are Africans outpacing Black Americans? And I'll put hashtag pop the balloon, hashtag Netflix, because Arlette and her husband, and I believe both of them are Nigerian, but I know the husband definitely Nigerian or something. They had a deal with Netflix. I'm pretty sure it's multi-million dollar over a tedious, silly dating show, but it's entertaining. Now, and that's great for them. I'm not saying they don't deserve it. I'm just saying when we look at African immigrants, particularly Nigerians, and you look at the numbers, they're outpacing when it comes to business and education and income. So yeah. Um, who was Carrie? Did you want to go now, Carrie? You have your hand up again,
Oh
Carrie.
yeah, sorry.
Mhm.
Yeah. There's room enough for everybody here. There's space for everybody to spread out and do their own thing. But we have these questions like, are they doing better? Why are they doing better? And it's like, okay, and if they're doing better, why are they in our advocacy space? Why are they pushing against our business? And why is only 13 people of the Congressional Black Caucus Black American? They're in the politics. So, when maybe on the local level, I guess if I saw somebody that was a different ethnic than me, no big deal. But I do know that even though we're talking about it and we're trying to, think about this and find a way through, they're still attacking us right now. And I mean, I'm not going to say all, but it seems like, everybody's turned towards them and not towards us. So the Department of Justice, yeah, they're out there suing people for discrimination, but they're suing Elon Musk for not hiring undocumented people here in California. They're not taking care of the case between Black people and the Latinos here in California, the largest case in the country that's been waiting around for years. It's real bad out here, and nobody's doing anything with that. So I just feel like, if we're going to have to look at people play all of our parts in Hollywood, in movies, and that means behind the camera too. It's not just this one person who's playing a role, but it's all over the place. If they're doing better, why are they in our space? They could spread out and have their own thing. We shouldn't have to bump into people here because our issue is with the state, not with them. We don't have a problem with other people. We have a problem with our government. But when we had a room that said, is immigration beneficial? Everybody worldwide, people called in and told us about ourselves. Okay, everybody chimed in and they told us a whole bunch of stuff that we didn't know. So we already got told. So I find it disingenuous if people are trying to act like that hasn't already happened. So okay, that's it.
I want
Peter?
yeah, I had a point, or I had a couple questions. So I understand the history of oppression, slavery, disenfranchisement, redlining, all these different things. Totally recognizing that. If you were born from 1980 on, what was the most acute or pervasive form of discrimination that Black Americans faced um, for the last 20 or for the last 45 years? Would you say, anybody who's on stage?
Well,
Denial, outright denial.
okay, wait 1 second. I'm gonna come to Miss Cleopatra after I say something to your question, Peter. It wasn't. I was born in '76. There were no more discriminatory public policies, but you're born into poverty, right? Or middle class. You're born into that, right? You're born into whatever your parents were doing. And they got to experience a little bit. That would be the baby boomers. The baby boomers kind of experience some Jim Crow and discrimination, and the freedoms after that. Um, and then I was born into complete, I don't want to say freedom, but just complete freedom or whatever, but for lack of a better word. However, when you, and in East Orange, that was first, it was suburbia. It was all white at one point, but then when Black people had money to buy homes, of course white people fled. But those Black people buying homes were professional Black people, beautiful homes.
Yeah, well,
Everyone
Dana,
owned their home where I grew up. So no, let me finish.
yeah.
So what we experienced, I would say, from my generation, it wasn't so much discrimination, but it was a government, intentional government genocidal of our community, i.e., drugs.
Okay, so drugs is
A genocidal tactic.
okay.
I think that's one aspect. If you want to hear it from another person, for me, my experience was, as a child, both my parents worked for the state, and they would come home routinely every night. My father would have to, do recordings of racist people at his job, trying to get him fired almost every single day. Going to his job was an exercise in basically he was walking a tightrope between people trying to actually real life physically try to harm him at the job, sabotage his job. He had to wear a recorder all the time, to make sure he's filming people. He was constantly being called to meetings, people being threatened that he's never going to retire from there, um, until he literally had to wear them out with exhaustion. But he watched a lot of brothers come on the job and then lose the job. They would say things like, "A Black man's never going to retire from here." My mother dealt with the same thing. I'm not going to say what kind of work she did, but she remained in a normal position and was managed by she had a master's degree and remained managed by people that had their bachelors. Um, unqualified people that weren't working as hard as she was. Um, you know, she had uh, there was so many instances at her place of work as well. Same types of things. They would talk about it all to the point where to drive them to, having to completely take out time of their day or from us, from those things. And then when I started to, enter the workforce, I was met with the same type of underhanded, type of covert and overt racism
A lot of
experiences.
microaggressions, you would say,
lot
A
a
lot of
lot of
microaggressions.
microaggressions, absolutely. And I wish I would have had knew a little bit more about how to deal with it, because my parents were still trying to deal with it in their own way, in their own frustrations. And this was exhausting. It took away from their earning capability. It took away from my earning capability. I didn't realize that I would have to knock on, when regular American citizens would have to knock on doors about 3 times, I'd have to knock about 15 times. It's just, and you think it's, I don't know what to tell you. I don't play the victim. I don't complain. I just try to make do, like I've been taught to. But you recognize that something is harmful is happening when you can go to a public place and you can't get service, or you can't get, people to, there's this weird animosity whenever you try to do something in the bank or take out a loan, or just everyday processes become a labor and exercise in futility almost. And you have to keep trying and trying and trying again. And then when you do get it done, it's almost as if people are like, darn, they got it done. It's like, wow, this is an
Yeah.
interesting experience. That's been my experience.
And that sums up that. Yeah, I think that was a great summation. I want to go to
Thanks.
Miss who is this? Miss Cleo. Okay, Miss Cleopatra, and then Carrie, and then the Black. Go ahead.
Um, I'm responding to, I guess, the room and the question. If you understand collateral damage, then you should never ask, what have we experienced? Number one, my dad, ADOS, FBA, Freeman, however you want to identify him, beat my mother like it was nobody's business as a child. My nieces and nephew, my great nieces and nephew have felt the collateral damage of my parents' marriage. They will never see my dad choke my mother while she was pregnant. So many things in this country and opportunities and ways to create old money in this country. We have not had an opportunity to do that. And I don't know how anyone could ask that question. What are we experiencing? We're still having to play catch up. We're still having to trying to find a seat at the table. And I let people know Lena Horne, Cab Calloway, Duke Ellington, they have done enough tap dancing at the Cotton Club for us to have a seat at the table in anything in Hollywood. We shouldn't have to be stepping over people or over some of the very children who come from the tribes. But some of these people can say, well, we didn't sell slaves. Okay, but you come from those communities, you come from those regions. Now you come here and freeload off of us, the very people that you kicked out of Africa. And I don't know how anyone could think that that is okay. And when you open your mouth and you say something about it, you're the one that's being divisive. You're the one that's being hostile. I land my plane.
I'm sorry. Can you mute up, Sherry? I need to go to Carrie. Oh, was she a troll? Oh no. Okay, no, I thought you dropped her down.
Yeah, Lovely's following her. I just muted it,
Okay,
but
okay,
Lovely's following her.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, just mute up, Sherry. I'm gonna come to you after Carrie. Go ahead, Carrie.
Sorry, give me a second.
Okay, fine. Um, all
I
right.
want to respond to Miss Cleo's point.
Okay.
I think that she said it was ridiculous to ask the question. The reason I'm asking is because, like Dana said, the outward prima facie on its face discrimination at a public level was not experienced anymore, from what she said. Her answer was that it was the drugs that were flooded into the communities, right? Which I definitely understand that, but then also, Dana, that cuts against your earlier argument of being a victor, not a victim, because they didn't have a gun to their head saying you have to use these drugs, right? You could say the same thing for white people because white people use drugs at a higher rate than anybody else, just by the
Yeah,
simple
because
fact.
it's expensive.
I'm sorry.
It's expensive. So when you like have like a community, right? So when it comes to guns and everything in Chicago and stuff like that, right? Like they always want to make it's always an issue. This is my thing. Where's the money? And where's the funding? That's a fact.
No, but I want to stay on the topic, which is what I was trying to talk about. My response
All right,
was,
well,
what is the discrimination that you experience directly?
Real quick, before hold on, real quick, because
no,
one
I'll
thing.
tell you.
Wait,
I'll
hold on
tell
one
you.
second. Let me say something to you right quick, Peter. Let me just help you with something right quick. So, Peter, what you're doing right now, right? Because I noticed you responded to Dana, and then you're kind of cherry picking in terms of it
I'm
just
not
sounds like
doing
a
shit. No.
no. Listen, hold on one second. Let me just say this right quick, Peter.
I got you, George. I dropped her because she was interrupting.
No. You didn't need to do that. All right. Look, here's the thing. You're a little bit. You're cherry picking a little bit, and what you're doing is you're kind of picking and choosing. You're hearing the responses to what you asked, what discrimination, right? As if it isn't an obvious thing. And I'm not attacking you now. I mean, I'm pretty sure if you're an American citizen and you can look on the news, you have Google, you have access to these things. You have access to information. And I get it. Sometimes I just add a conversation, or maybe you have some bottom line point you want to get to, or something like that. It just, I'm starting to wonder now, and I don't want to make any assumptions about you, but I am starting to wonder now, what is your overall point in extracting that type of information that is by the way, which is currently still happening right now? And I'm certain that the majority of Black people will tell you about their experiences and say, hey, this is what I'm dealing with right now. And although we don't even have time to stop really, because we're not playing the victim, you have to live life. You have to work hard. You have to be able to put money in your pocket, take care of your family. We don't have time to play the victim. That's why that's such a funny word, right? It's a funny word because while the entire country is on attack towards Black people, whether that's through unequal application of law, rule, and policy, or using every method possible to basically undermine and harm Black people, while that's happening and while there's this mass psychosis of Eurocentric,
All right. So first of all, you doing that.
a mass psychosis of Eurocentric ideology
Oh yeah, because that's bullshit.
that's being pumped through the school system, right?
You can't do that.
So
You can't do that. You can't.
you're having this mass psychosis of Eurocentric ideology being pumped through the school system, which is literally teaching children the incorrect history of the world, is teaching children that somehow like I said, this is neither here nor there. It's kind of like you spilled milk already. It's something that's already done and it's already continuing to be done. When you teach young children at the tender ages of 4 years old, that most significant contributions to human advancement, everything from math to science to literature to everything you could imagine, the major contributors are somehow white Europeans. We know this isn't true, but yet it's being taught. That's propaganda. What that does is it teaches people to be internally racist, right? People grow up thinking that white people are somehow more significant than other groups. When every test you have to take from first grade all the way to grade 12, that somehow somebody white has done something more significant. That has an impact on your thinking and the way you look at the world. We literally can't pass on to the next grade, get a cap and gown without acknowledging some kind of contribution, right, from white Europeans. And that's the reality. You can't even you can't do almost anything without that, right? You could be doing something as simple as a job training. They might say, well, in 1825, the first person from Europe was the first person to make a cup of water. Like, come on, man. Like, this is propaganda. This is It's propaganda, man. There's been plenty of civilizations predating Europe that have done plenty of these things, but yet they're not spoken about. We live in a propagandized, well, excuse me, our education is propagandized, and it's more towards Eurocentrism. Not to get off topic, but just so you know, this feeds into racism and the racist ideology that people have today. And so it creates thoughts and negative thoughts, feelings, and behaviors in addition to the already history of violent racism that we've had in this country. So, I don't know how you could ask how people are facing racism, because it's every day. It's a thing that is woven into the fabric of American society and Western culture.
I
I think.
understand. I understand what
I
you're
think.
saying, and you made a lot of poignant points. And I tried to take some notes because you did go in a couple of different places with the topics you brought up. But I used victors versus victims because that was the term Danny used earlier, and I got what she was saying, which is we're not going to focus on being negative, or that these negative things have kept me down, and I'm going to use it as a crutch or an excuse, but I'm going to be able to rise above and become a victor for
Correct. Can I
those
can I ask you a
challenges.
question though before you continue?
Sure,
Is there
sure.
anything in with my speech and what I said did it sound like a victim? Is there any is is there anything I said that sounded victim like a victim?
Did you
I,
Yes or
make
and,
no?
and
any
I don't
moral
want to use
argument?
No,
I
no, I'm
don't
just saying
want to
yes or
use.
yes or no. I'm just saying. I'm just be honest with me. Is there
Yes,
anything?
yes.
Okay. So let me follow up with something. This is another problem with America. When a black person speaks about the facts of history and the facts of what's currently going on, the current state, right, making observations about what's going on, a lot of white people, unfortunately, or racist, internally racist people, internalize that and say victim, victim, victim. When I'm merely stating what is actually occurring. In my real life, I am a fighter, fighter, fighter. I just came back from a protest today. I just came back from working. I just came back from doing a lot of things today that would suggest that I'm a fighter, right? If all my actions are a fighter, then how can I be considered a victim? If the majority of people, if you look up the stats, that call the police, initiate police contact phone calls are predominantly white people, wouldn't victims be calling the police? So I don't understand this concept of calling people victims who, first of all, who rarely contact police first, right? And the people who contact police, which if you're calling the police, you're most likely the victim of a crime, right? Or you're at least a victim. The majority of people that contact police first, you can look up the stats, are white people. So how can anybody else be? That's literally what a victim is, right? So I don't understand this concept of like, because somebody states a fact of life and somebody might be fragile or sensitive to that fact, then you say that's a victim. No, I'm just making an observation.
Well,
That's all.
I want to go to the Black and JV. They had their hands up for a
I'm
minute.
sorry about that.
Well, Peter, did you want to say something
Yeah,
before I go
yeah.
to
I'd like to
Black?
quickly answer. I guess maybe victim isn't the right word, but I wanted to answer your question because you asked for a direct yes or no. So I would say it's like using excuses or things as a crutch, right? Because it will a lot of what you're saying sounds like what I would read in a higher level class on critical race theory, like for at the law school level, or something that I would read regarding an excuse for like identity politics, right? Where you're engaging in a back and forth in order to say that, well, this is what happened, and when we are the group that has been othered, and so because of being othered, we need to have a correction of this. And I've been doing a lot of extensive reading lately on Mao and Mao's Cultural Revolution, and how he would use similar tactics and identity politics in order to destroy the society and start new with his workers' paradise, which led to the killing of 66 million approximate Chinese. And so that's what when you talked about how you had all these things that you had gone through and you had seen in your lived experience, I'm not denigrating that or saying that you didn't feel those things were happening in your mind. I talk to and have many colleagues that are black, that are foundational black Americans in the sense of the word. Not that they're saying they are, but that's where they were, that's how they were raised, and that's their lineage. And they have risen above to a point where they don't even think about these things anymore. That they have so much money and such affluence and land, and they're doing things and they're starting families and having children, that this is like there is no discrimination that they're experiencing anymore. I have a friend who has a separate fund just to pay for his new M5 that he got. Like, and he's black, Like I have other friends that are going on major trips to Europe and they're working remotely, similar to what I do, and they're pulling in numbers over $1 million every single year. Like so again, I go back to the earlier point that this is related to class and not race, because once you enter a certain socioeconomic sphere, your network opportunities are manifold, increased, and you're able to rise above a lot of these things. So I feel like when you're saying that you experience these things, okay, yes, you did, but they don't need to be the crutch that you could rise above them and that other people have. Like I was just in another space talking about Oprah. How did Oprah get to her
Can we have
position?
a little natural back and forth?
And I want to land
Wait,
there
wait,
because I
one
don't want to
second.
go on a
I
rant.
do wanna,
I'm sorry.
I do wanna grab. I wanna go to the Black
I
and
got you. I'm
JV
sorry.
because they were waiting for a minute with their hands up. Go ahead, the Black, and then JV.
Yeah, I'm gonna be real quick. This is why I say immigration has been like a negative to America, especially to black people. Because to be honest, like most of these immigrants come over here, they assimilate, but they assimilate in a parasitic way. Cause they monetize things that we don't even try to monetize. Like we just make genuinely out the ether. It's just what we naturally do, just cause we black. And they come here and they use the American system, the capitalist system, in other ways to pop use us to popularize it, or since it's already popularized, they just monetize it and sell it back to us, and they exclude us out the monetization when we actually finally figure out, dang, this is we could have monetized this in a certain way, because just like the little dance that the white girl was doing that went viral, she was just able to monetize that, but the original person that was doing it, the black lady, she done got shadow banned. And this is a problem that we have, like when it comes down to the streamer and content creator thing. Like when we try to do things that genuine and try to monetize it, it's a little harder because you get a little shadow ban. You gotta walk a fine line. You can't be as free as other people. And that that comes down to the example that Chip said about the jeweler makers. They came over here and siphoned some black culture, uh, and monetized it like everybody else. And that every group does that, unfortunately. And they try their best to exclude us out of it. Even with the agents with the hair, they monetize that to a point where they change the laws and make it even harder for us to even go overseas and work with other companies or other countries, because they making sure the market only goes through them. And every
Right.
group has stole a market and did that individually when it comes down to the culture that we have made. And that's why I say it's been a negative. It's better for us to make it in America, made by the people who actually authentically make it and sell it abroad like everybody else do. It's cultural
Let me
appropriation
add
to
on
a
to that
point.
real quick before I lose it. That was great points, and those points were true. For instance, the algorithm, and I don't, maybe racist is too much of a strong word, but the algorithm, um, maybe I just have to say racist, right? I need to think of another word to
It's
where
biased.
it's biased. Yes, thank you. The algorithm is very biased. Black people, content creators, because I'm a content creator, full-time content creator. If I talked about entertainment, you get more views, or relationships. But a black person talking about politics, they're not pushed as much as a white counterpart. That is a fact. And you cannot tell me that the algorithm is not biased. It's very biased. And then you have to look at the people who create these algorithms, right? They have stereotypes. Stereotypes is a real thing that people who own corporations, 500 corporations, people who are in C-suites, or people who are just regular working people. Everybody has stereotypes about different groups, but the stereotype of Black Americans, you know, And a lot of times, again, just also about accountability. We allow ourselves to be portrayed a certain way. But because when you look at television, when you look in the music, majority of Black Americans do not act like a sexy red, but that's what's being pushed. So the algorithms are very biased. Why is that? There's always going to be racism and sexism and classism and a caste system in this world. But we are focused here in America, right? We talk about the caste system here. Why is Black Americans still at the bottom of the caste system? Now, maybe, you do have Hispanics, they're kind of beneath us, but we're basically even. And to where some areas they may be surpassing, right? But again, why is Black Americans still in 2025 at the bottom of the caste system here in America? Is it all off fault with lack of upward mobility? Or is it or is it the government that's constantly got the foot on our black necks? Or is it a combination of both, right? And what I'm talking about in present day. Because we could go back in the past, like I said, those people sacrificed their lives so that we could have the freedoms today. And we do have freedoms today. So what?
Dana, do you feel you are or your daughters or your children have been discriminated against in like the last 15 years?
Well, okay, so have my daughter has experienced discrimination. So it may not be with public policies because we have laws that you cannot discriminate against someone when it comes to employment or whatever, but behavior, how you are treated, which does affect your employment or getting a promotion on a job. Yes, did my kids have, particularly my daughter. Now, sometimes it's maybe not so much from white people, but she have told me it was from Arabic Muslims. They're very racist. So, yes, there are immigrants that are racist, whether they came here through Ellis Island or came here yesterday or over the border. So, she has, even in certain religions, whether it's a religion or whatever, because even when you look at the Muslim religion, even with Arabs, there are a lot of black people of black skin who are Muslims, but in those other countries, they are the servants. They are at the bottom of that caste system in those Muslim countries. And that's how they still have a slave trade over in East Africa, i.e., by way of the, Arabs, by the hand of the Arabs. So when they come over here, those immigrants, and they're all at the mosque, all the women are together and they have their kids. My daughter was telling me, oh, they always want me to babysit the kids. And I said, well, you need to let them know, honey, you hire nannies. You're not one. But they have that misconception, they have that stereotype of black people. So until you correct them and let them like, no, 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 that's not happening here. So yes, you experience those things. And just like Gerard was saying, in the workforce, particularly coming out of civil rights movement, those, if you were a racist then, if you were a racist on August what, the 15th in 1964 when the civil rights bill was passed, you're going to be a racist on the 16th. You're going to be a racist that following year. That didn't change someone's um outlook on how they see black people. So if they were in charge of a small business or in management at a corporation, those discriminatory practices were still going on. And I think we're forgetting that. So it's like, okay, we had to fight and people had to die for our government on state and federal to pass these laws for some type of protection. And now we have to sit up here and fight against the microaggressions, against these racist individuals
Dana, Dana,
throughout this
Dana,
nation.
Dana, Dana, back then, there were people saying that some of those civil rights activists were using those things as a crutch. There were actually people at that time saying the exact same line that Peter said.
Right.
They were
So,
saying,
but here's my thing though. But here's the accountability that I think Black Americans need to start taking, because we all need to look within, no matter what background or what gender or what
absolutely,
race. We all need to look within. So with
yeah, of
Black
course.
Americans, we need to look within. Like, am I participating in economics, in my community, in my finances. We are not, are we teaching our children about finances? No, because you're not even, you don't have enough knowledge as a parent about finance. So why don't you learn that? Are you taking your child to the library every weekend, or setting up extracurricular activities? Are you investing in your family, in your community, in your children? So take accountability for your everyday environment.
Yeah, and just say I do think black people can walk and chew gum at the same time. I think it's possible to
No, we
work hard.
can,
Yeah,
but
work hard, discuss the issues while working hard, still believing in
right,
ourselves
but a lot
and
of
things like that.
times I don't see I don't see the walking and chewing gum as much as I would like. And I think it's not because you're black. I think it's an American attitude, because you look to your counterpart, whether it's white or immigrant young person, they have that same type of attitude to
Yeah,
where they're not working to their full potential.
I'll
right.
So
concede your
so
point.
so let me just
Both
say
your
this
guys.
one last thing. Let me say this one last thing, and I need to go to JV. So talking about a simulation ship, um, young people, they have assimilated into this American culture where they feel as though the world owes me and I'm gonna be a slacker. So, but go ahead, JV, because you did have your hand up for a minute.
Yeah, thank, and it's a great conversation. I like listening as well, as much as talking. But I think I have an issue with this accountability thing. Because I feel like it's self harm. We have presented proof of process in this country for being industrious, ambition, and everything else, right? We have the HBCUs here. We have the inventions. We have the unsung heroes who go through our schools and they get benign neglect and they have income inequality and jobs and everything else. A lot of people are not even telling us their experiences. So no, I don't know what there's no data even support that we have lack of accountability and these ideas, like these conjectures that we need to be more family oriented and all this stuff. Like data's out there that said all of those things are stereotypes and they're not true. The CDC showed that black men are the biggest demographic that's in a home with the kids. So it's absolutely not accountability. It's absolutely systems, and I don't mean just some random government monster, some Thanos. No, every system, through hospital, lack of prenatal care, um, the judicial system, the lending, the banks, the SBA, like these things are real. So like, this idea that we're victims, no, we're in a conflict, and in the conflict, you take certain like hits. And these hits are very real, they're tangible, and they're there. Like so, I think people are trying to dismiss our sojourn and our reality as a way to assert themselves and recognize themselves, but don't leverage us to make yourself real. Like you can be real, do what you do, that's great. But you're part of an ecosystem, and part of that it should be reciprocal. If you're doing great, like what does that look like for the environment that you're in now? Are you a taker? Are you an extractor? Like this is sound like colonialism. So yeah, I have a problem with that. Accountability is not our thing. Nothing supports that. We say that when we get in I don't know, amongst ourselves and even others as a way to, I don't know, just to like, I don't know. I don't know why that's happening.
Mhm.
Like we're very accountable. So yeah, thank you.
Well, I don't know. I don't.
But
Maybe I
Dana,
need
you
an
gotta
all
recognize.
black space for this, but
Nah, it's cool. You can have a white space. Like I'm not. I don't duck the smoke.
no, I'm
No,
just saying,
listen,
like,
listen,
I
Dana. I don't duck the smoke. The reality is, there's nothing that points that we're not accountable. We are driven people like everybody else. I won't take away their ambition, but don't take away ours. Don't pretend like we're not out here putting that sweat equity in. In fact, we put so much sweat equity in that people want to be here. Like, query me that. We're not going to these places. Like, what did you guys produce? Respectfully, I know y'all got like these totalitarian governments that don't let y'all do nothing, but we created this environment through like abuse. Like they were fucking attacking us, and we steady march. We were on the line. My neighborhood is so fucking loud, but yeah, like just have some respect. Nobody's trying to trip on y'all for doing great and making money. But what is your target? Are you after you won and you're successful and everything? Are you trying to revitalize the environments you came from? Are you now want to revitalize the environment you're in? I don't think it should stop with, hey, look at me, I'm better than you. It sounds like childish shit. Like, are we in a playground? Like, Okay, you did good, good brother. So what now? Like, are you going back home? Can I help you? Are you gonna help us? What are you doing? Are you just here to wag your finger and say, hey, look, I did good. Look at you. Because those kind of messages go into politics. They go into policies, and it goes to how budgets get distributed and dispersed. You know, because if they think people are not effective or inactive, they're not going to invest in us. So just be careful, good immigrant brothers. When you do good, hold that down and remember your goal. You have goals. Your goal is not to disparage the people that are native on the ground. Like that should not be your goal. You should go back home and fix it all. Help us to build what the fuck we got going on.
I want to go to Miss Cleopatra, and we've been up here for 2 hours. I don't really like to go too long, so I'm gonna give it like another 30 minutes. And hi, Sweetie, can you please check your message? And also, I'm gonna message you my phone number so that we could text each other regarding tomorrow. So yeah, so Sway please check your message on X. But go ahead, Miss Cleopatra. Do you want to say anything?
Yes. Someone mentioned Oprah, and I want to say this. Oprah did us a huge disservice by not acknowledging how she got to where she was. If you're sitting up here thinking that it was because of hard work, it was not. It was because of the advocacy of our community, the Black American, the American descendants of slave community. I'm disappointed in Oprah. She had Susie Armand up there talking about financial literacy. Susie Armand never talks about how her people, white folks, destroyed town, city, block wealth, how they stole property, how mean and cruel and greedy they were, how we were locked out of homes while white Americans were getting subdivisions. They put us in projects. She never talked about how the federal government did not want us to work in government, but she's running around talking about financial literacy. Okay, and I will give Oprah a check mark. She did donate money to Morehouse. I remember, if you were into her, she also took some of the civil rights people on a cruise. But no, her show did us a disservice because she didn't talk about the other side of the story. And it is apparent to me the people on the stage do not understand how wealth is created. They don't understand how old money is created. I heard my mother say over and over again as a child, or she said it enough, this country has never given us an opportunity to make old money. And old money does matter. I land my plane.
I
You
just
can
want to
put your
respond.
thumb, Peter, you can put your thumbs down, and that is just exactly how you guys do. Put your thumbs down. Susie Armand can't be on the Oprah Winfrey show, can't be selling books. And that also goes for people like Anthony Robbins. That also goes to some of these self-help gurus like like um um Jack Canfield. Take that can do attitude and let me hit you in the head with it. You write all these self help books. Even the guy who has all this money stated he got to where he was because he was a white male. Some white Americans will admit it that they hit the genetic lottery by being white, by being a male. That's how they got to what they got.
I can't.
Winfrey,
I hear.
somebody should have popped her on her hand because she did not, it was not vision boards, it was not treasure maps, and it just wasn't meditating and praying. Our ancestors put in the work, the work. Go watch the video. I land my plane.
I hear what you're saying. I was putting my thumb down because I'm in talks to bring on some of my colleagues that I've been talking about. They don't want to dox, so I want to make sure that they want to make sure that when they come on, they're not going to be in a position to be doxed, and they want to talk about these things because I think it needs to be said, to be shown that this can be done, that this is not some one-off. There's 1.78 million, according to AI, I just looked it up, black millionaires in the country right now. So I
Well,
don't I
how many doing an AI, how many millionaires are white people, and then do how many millionaires of Indian and Asian, like Asians.
right. No, you're
Let's
right.
do a compare and contrast.
Your point is right. I mean, by the other groups, like you just said, you just mentioned, are ahead by magnitudes. But at this point in time, we have the most black millionaires ever in the history of the country. So that's why I
It's
was going.
still not enough. It is still not enough.
No, we're not
And I'm gonna
saying that
say
it
it
is.
again.
No,
You
but
you
okay.
you
So
don't
Peter,
understand
what?
how old
No,
money is
wait 1 second.
made.
So Peter, when you using that as an example, what is your point with that? Like, what is your point with that?
The
With the
point is that
millionaire?
I want. Well, this is why I wanted to concede what you said earlier, that there are microaggressions, that there are the insidiousness of racism is actually permeated throughout a lot of people in the country. There are a lot of racists in
So
this
okay, so
country.
but here's the thing: we always had black millionaires, even during slavery and after slavery. We always had black millionaires, right?
The first
And
woman
I'm pretty sure
millionaire was
that
black.
number. I'm pretty sure the number of black millionaires have increased throughout the centuries and throughout the decades. But we're talking about the masses in general. See, the regular population outnumbers multimillionaires. Period. What no matter what background you are. So just because we have 1,000 black millionaires, that's not a sign of progress for black Americans, because we always had a whole bunch of millionaires throughout our existence here.
I don't. But I again, you'd have to go by and break it down by the rate ratio, right, to see what the number is or the per capita amount. That's how you would look at it if you were going to compare it to something that happened centuries ago, right? How many blacks were in the population, and then how many millionaires, and then you'd be
It
able
would
to
still
produce.
probably most likely be, of course, you're going to be more millionaires today, right? However, the point that I'm trying to make here is, even when, let's just say, during Reconstruction or right after Reconstruction or whatever, the per capita percentage is still equal to percentage that will be equal to today or slightly higher today. We're not talking about that small percentage of black Americans, because that does not signify um, the that does not signify the plight of black Americans. You can't measure the success of black Americans on the number of millionaires. So that the number is skewed the way you are using it, or if it's not skewed, it's not reflecting to the comments, to what you're trying to say or what you're trying to equate. We're talking about black Americans in general, and
What's a better
just
metric that you would use, Dana?
yeah, okay, so that's the word. The millionaire metrics is skew. Like that's a horrible example to use, because that's a horrible example to use with any group, because you can't measure success by the number of millionaires unless over 50% of that particular group population are millionaires. But that's never the case. Even
That's
in
in any
white
group.
people,
Yeah, right.
right,
No
in
group has
any
that,
group,
right?
right? Because
Yeah.
white people, y'all are the majority here, even though other or it's catching up, but white people are still the majority here in America. But you cannot equate the number of millionaires to white people's success here in America. So that
So
was
what
just the
metric would
point.
you use?
You use the medium income, you use the general income of the population of that said group. You cannot use millionaires. You cannot just you take out millionaires and just use that the number of millionaires and how much they make. Because even if you did that, even if you sat up here and you just use all nothing but the millionaires numbers and matrix, right? If you compare it to Asians, if you compare it to white people, the black millionaires will still be at the bottom of the cast. So if any way you try to slice it, blacks are still at the bottom. However, to talk about the black experience or black Americans here in America, you cannot say, well, you have 1,000 millionaires. So what? It's 17 or 20 million of us, and we only have 1,000 millionaires? That's horrible.
I'm
That
looking
is
at the met.
horrible.
I hear you. I'm looking at the metric
That's
right now.
less than 1% of our population.
I'm looking for the median household income of 2023 for households headed by a black
I
person was
said that already.
54.
It's $56,000. I said that in
Yeah.
the beginning. Compared to Nigerians, it's 80. Compared to white, it's 80. Compared to other groups, it's 80K. We're at 56.
Do you think the gap is closing though from years before, like from decades ago? Why is
Well,
that
let me
funny?
let me
Why
say
is it
this
funny
because
for me to
I
ask a
actually did a
question?
show. Wait, one second. I actually did a show on my YouTube channel. It was talking about, when they said black jobs, right? When that was a hashtag months ago during the election. Well, what did I put? 70% of black Americans make less than $40,000. So when the Democrats were saying, "Oh, illegals are not taking black jobs," they are. They are taking black jobs because majority of black Americans are in those low wage job fields. I did the data on that. So was it 70 or I know it was over 50%. So anywhere between 60 to 70% black Americans make less than 40K. And then the other 30%, it kind of like goes up. So again, talking about millionaires, no, that's not a good analogy.
I agree with you. Like, how do we get black Americans in better jobs? Because I think that that's a reasonable thing. What are the factors that's stopping that from happening? And it's not just old money. Like, I come from a family where my grandmother grew up in Jim Crow. I traced my ancestry back. They grew up in slavery, but my mom just so happened to become a registered nurse. And I'll be honest with you, my dad is a Nigerian Jew. So I had a different way of thinking than other black people who I grew up around had. What do you think that we can do to help black people get in better positions?
Who is the we? I don't.
What?
Oh, and I don't. What is your name? I can't make out.
Yeah,
Sim.
yeah, my name is Shaman.
Okay, so you saying what can we do to help black people?
Yes, what can we do to help black people in
Who is
America?
the we? You mean everyone other than black, that we, or you talking about white people?
Well, we don't even have to talk about white people, just as a group ourselves, because I had a grandmother who went through the same thing. Half of
So
my
are you
family,
colored? Are you a black man?
yeah, half of my family went through Jim Crow, like half of my family went through slavery, the other half is Nigerian Jews. But my
But
mother,
so they're
but my,
African. So they're black African.
yeah, but my mother is the American. She actually makes more money than my dad does and became a registered nurse and moved up the ranks, and she is the black American.
And your
How can
mother's the
we
one
help?
you could trace the lineage back to slavery, you're saying?
Yeah, yeah, on my mother's side I can trace my lineage back to slavery.
And
So
then your
you're
And
so
father
he so
is
he's an
Nigerian.
FBA then, right? He'd be considered an FBA.
Well,
yeah, I'd be considered an
he's
FBA.
half FBA because the father is not your father is Nigerian.
Yes.
Okay,
Do you
but
do,
he just so
but
happened to
are
be
we
He's
Jewish.
Dana? Do
technically a
we do?
person of color.
Is delineation happening also down to like half? Are we seeing that too? Like you half FBA,
No, no,
half.
no, no.
I got the book Delineation
I'm just
Ology.
saying. Wait, 1 second, Negro. You got to stay on your mic. I'm gonna come to you in a minute. I'm being very specific because first of all, I'm trying to figure out, okay, what is your background? Because he has a picture of a white man. So his father, he said his father's Nigerian Jewish. That doesn't mean he's black. Nigeria is a country. That's your nationality. So is he a black man from Nigeria?
I mean, he's probably more dark complected than you.
Is
Yeah, he
he a
looks like
black
a
African man? You know what I'm talking about?
yeah, he's darker than Dikembe Mutombo. Yeah,
Okay,
he's very dark.
fine. But he just so happened to be Jewish and Nigerian, which is rare, but okay. Your mother is black
Not that rare.
American.
Okay. It's not that rare. There's a community there. We're from the Igbo
The
people.
majority of Nigerians, they're either Muslim or Christian or Catholic.
Yeah,
So
we're from the
anyway, your mother is black American.
yeah, yeah.
Are you sure, sir?
Yeah, I'm 100% positive. I'm
You
not
had to
sure about what
pause.
you said. I'm not sure about what you said when you said that the majority aren't. Look up the Igbo people. A lot actually do have Israelite heritage and do keep the traditions that Jewish people keep. So that's where I was
So
like,
is your
okay,
father Israelite?
Well, my dad was literally born near a place called B'nai Ephraim, which is one of the tribes. That's what it was called pre-colonialization.
So he's an
So there's
Israelite.
been a
He's
Jewish
Hebrew.
community. Yes, there's been a Jewish community in Nigeria for a long time.
I know that. I'm talking about the masses, though. The
Yeah,
masses.
well,
The
yeah,
majority. The majority of Nigerians are what?
the majority today, you're right when you say that the majority are Christian or Muslim, but a lot of the Igbo identify as Jews. Now they don't practice like we do. Like I practice Orthodox Judaism. They don't practice the way that we do, but they know where they come from, and they're like, oh yeah, like we're from one of the tribes. The majority of Igbo, if you go there, will tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
But they've
Okay.
converted into other religions, and I get that. But on my American side, I can tell you that I can go back to slavery where we were in slavery, but we're doing pretty well today, and we've had to work up over time. My grandmother grew up in Tennessee in Jim Crow, where she had to call white children mailman sir because they were treated better than a black person was down there, even though my grandmother was an adult who was born in
All right, can I answer
1937.
this question, Dana? He said, "How can we get black jobs?"
How can we help today? That's
Yeah,
what I
I
want to
Right, but
know.
I'm
right.
saying to you, you keep saying we as if you're non-black. Who is the we?
I'm
Dana,
saying
let me answer this question.
how am I non-black if half of my family went
Okay,
Before
then.
we
through
So,
go
this?
there,
sir.
can I
Okay,
answer this
so
question?
are you talking? Are you talking in the third person? You saying how can we help black
I
people?
think he
But
means
you're black.
collectively, Dana. I don't think
Yeah,
that.
I
Yeah.
Collectively,
So
think
then,
he's talking about with the
slow
people.
down,
exactly.
So
slow down, because maybe Sim needs to take an English class, or maybe it's me. When you say how can we help, you are when you phrase it that way, you are saying you are putting yourself as an outside person looking at a particular group of people that you are not associated with, but you're saying how can I help you? If you are a black American and you went through your lineage as the experience of the black American, there's not no how can we help. It would be what can we do for each other. You said how can we help. When you say that, you're making it sound like you are other than black American, but you want to come in and help.
I
Yeah,
think
because I'm doing well, and I'm not on a space asking other people to give me reparations. I'm saying how can
But
we help
nobody up here,
black
wait, but this is,
Whoa.
well, hold on, this is not, no one didn't even utter the word reparations. And if you look to the title is not about reparations. So we're not gonna just throw shit out there, because I'm asking you questions. I need clarity from you, because you're saying how can we? So you're saying, okay, the upward mobility, the black people that are advanced, how can we help the less fortunate black people? Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is the people who aren't having spaces like this, how can we help the people who feel like they're being left behind? That's what I
How
want to
can
do.
black people who have all the
Everybody,
success,
not just black people,
help?
everybody.
How can they help black people who are not having that success?
Everybody,
can I
all of
answer this question,
society.
Dana?
How can we help?
Hey, Dana, can I answer this question? So to your question, brother, and I did recognize that you did outside yourself, and that's cool. That's your business. You clearly having a affinity for your Nigerian side, but yeah. To answer your question, how can we get black people job? Well, look at Preston. How did anybody who were not enfranchised in this country get jobs? Look at the Great Depression. What happened to those Southern Europeans? How did they get jobs? Right. Look at the 1950s, the people that were coming out of World War II. How did they get jobs? Right. It's very
if he's already Black Americans, when you say how can we help, you are placing yourself as a non-Black American as other and wanting to come in and help Black Americans, but you say you're Black American. I
No,
don't say
no, no,
how can we help. No, no, no,
no.
no, no, no,
Um,
no, no.
I think
I
it's
want
to
to
the
answer.
people
That's
in
what
the
it was.
space who he's
That's
speaking
no, no,
to.
no, 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 no. I am a Black American person. So when I'm talking about Black Americans, and what I say, what can we do collectively? Solutions. What are solutions for Black Americans? Not how can we help. I'm not helping Black Americans. I want us to
I
come
don't think they
together
get it,
to
Dana.
organize. I
They
want
don't
us
get
to
it.
come. Stop. I want us to come together and organize and move forward. The way I'm not fucking stupid. The way he worded that shit, it came off as how can we help? How can me, this Jewish man, Nigerian Jewish man, or Nigerian Jewish lineage who's doing very well, come in and help assist Black Americans?
That
So
doesn't
hold
matter.
on.
If I didn't have if I didn't have that side of my family, let's say that my dad was from Detroit, right? I would say the same thing and word it the same way. I'd be like, I'm in a position to help change things. How can we change things as a collective?
Well,
Right,
You didn't
Dana,
Dana,
say that
Dana,
imagine
though.
this.
Dana.
I
So
That's
check it
how
that's
out.
what
Check
you
it out.
should have
Check it
said.
I
out.
How
took
Check
can
it
it.
out.
we change things as a collective?
No, I
When
check it
you
out.
say how can we help, you automatically separate yourself. But using the word collective, that means you are including yourself with Black Americans.
But Dana, how I took it as Black Americans who are already doing well would help other Black Americans who aren't doing as well. That's why I think he said we. That's how I understood it.
How
Right, but
I
if we
took
had
it
a
was the
we had a
people having
problem.
this conversation. That's
Well,
how
check it.
I understood it.
Well, check it out. We had a problem in this room. Is all of us.
Dana, I'm ready when you are.
Real quick, if we had a problem in this room. Is all of us. And we're trying to fix a problem. Somebody came in here and they said, "How can we help this room?" You made yourself not part of this room. That's what she's saying.
I could see it. I could see the other way. I'm telling you how I took it with my perception.
Yeah,
I
but he
can see
outed
it
himself.
too. I can see it too. The way that you took it, Peter, is what I meant, but I can see somebody else's perspective. Like,
Well,
I'll
Sim,
humble
let me
myself.
say this.
I'm not going to get mad.
Let me say this real quick, Sim. I don't think you're a Black American man. I really don't. I don't. I don't. I don't.
Okay, why?
Uh, the words, your language that you're using, the words, how you're placing words together. I had the question mark when you was running down your lineage or whatever. It was a little bit hesitant talking about mom, and when you said we, how can we help? Not just we. What can you didn't say what can we do to move our race forward? How you're saying how can we help you? That means you are someone on the outside looking in.
Based on what? Like, I want you to articulate that
I
because
just
now you've
said
made
you
the
just
claim.
don't you just
No,
don't
no, you
understand what
didn't
I'm saying. I just
articulate it.
articulate. Okay, so let me make it more plain. When you say how can we help you, that means you are the person on the outside looking into some people that have a problem and you want to come in and help them, but you claim to be a part of them. Well, you can't be a part of something when you are standing on the outside saying, how can I help assist you? Because I don't have your problems, but I could probably help you with your problems. So that means you're not one of us. Because if you're one of us, you don't say, how can I help you? I always say, what can we do to make Black America better?
That doesn't change my heritage. I have a different perspective than you. So yeah, Dana, like, nobody's arguing that. I have a different perspective than you and my family is doing well, right? When I say how can we help is when people are doing better and they can help, how can we contribute to that and help? That's what
Okay,
I'm
so
talking
all right,
about.
so you're the Black
That
people who have done very well in success with economics and wealth. But let me tell you this, because this is why I'm questioning your lineage, right? I don't think you're Black, and this is why. Black people who I have in my family and who I personally know that are millionaires or that are in a high bracket income making over 250 plus a year, they don't never say, and these are Black Americans, they don't never say, how can we help you Black people? They don't never say that. They always come to the table, what can we do to move our people forward? It's a difference in language. See, I could point that shit out. Peter can't because he's not one of me, one of us. He's not Black American. With all due respect, it's nothing wrong with that. Chip can't, just like I can't go to Russia. And if I say certain things, they're gonna be like, I could just tell you're not one of us. So it is a difference. When black people, no matter what social economic background they come from, when they want to sit up here and we get in a room to figure out Black American shit, they don't never come even the boule the people that are in the upper echelon of income. They never say, how can we help, as if they're on the outside looking in. They
I
always
never
say,
said
what
I'm on the.
can we
I went
do?
through my lineage. The difference that we have is psychological. That's the difference. I don't look at
No, it's no.
myself.
Well, yeah, maybe,
It
maybe it
is.
is.
It
Yeah,
is. It
maybe it
is.
is a psychological difference
It is a
because you,
psychological difference.
for some reason, in your upbringing, you were
Yeah.
taught to be separated from regular Black Americans.
No, I was never taught that. I was taught, here's the difference. You were taught to be separated from white Americans. I
No, I
was
was
never
not
taught to
taught
be
that.
separated from
And that's it.
anybody.
Okay, so
I
now
was
and now you just gave me another red flag of you. You just gave me another red flag to sit up here and say I was taught as a Black Americans to separate from white people. That automatically lets me know you are
yeah,
non-Black
yeah, you
Americans.
were.
You
Ha-
are
ha- ha-
non. You are, and I hate. I don't want to keep muting. I hate keep muting people putting a mute button. But I need to talk, and then I'm gonna hand it over to you. You are a non-Black American individual because you just let me know you know nothing about American history, and you damn sure don't know nothing about American history. There has never been a time that Black people were taught to separate from white people. That's never been um the standard here in America. That never happened. That no. What the fuck are you talking about? You are not a Black man.
so,
Let me make myself clear. You are not a Black American man. You're not ADOS. You're not FBA. And if your lineage says that, because you're half of it, you were brought up you were brought up as someone separate from Black American experience. You were, because your language is exposing you right now.
but that's my point. I have a
Wait, but
different
Peter, I mean,
experience.
bro, let's move around, bro. Come on, bro.
Yeah, so
Hold on.
I want to go to the
Let me
Negro. You
respond.
ready, the Negro?
Yes,
Let
ma'am, I am. I'm
me
going to say
respond.
one, thank you for being patient with me. And kudos to you. My book, Delineationology, goes right into this, the fraud scheme of melanin misrepresentation that other groups use to get ahead, right? And I see that at the job. I see that in education, medical professions, and list goes on, right? And this material, or this melanin material misrepresentation, that means they're on government documentation. Just like some of the people on the panel, they might click on Black, but they're not a Black American person that is connected to the 14th Amendment and chattel slavery, right? And this is how you get people to say these phrases, saying that, oh, it's psychological. No, the stuff that was done to the Negro American person was brutality, terrorism, hanging, lynchings, burnings, and the list goes on. So it's not just psychological. And the nerve that somebody would say something like that comes across as being anti-Black, anti-Negro, and the list goes on and on and on. And this is this fraud scheme where these groups of people use it to get ahead of our community at the expense of proximity to our community, and also using skin color. using the melanin of the skin to act as if they're Black American people to get into these positions. And this is going to tie into the balloon pop. Majority of those people in the balloon pop that runs, I think they're Nigerian, so they have no connection to the Black American experience or anything of that nature, and they're using the civil rights and affirmative action, things that they never fought for here on American soil, but they're benefiting off it at the expense of the people who actually fought for it. And this is the melanin misrepresentation that I'm talking about that you can find in my book, Delineationology. It's a reason why I push delineation. And we do need to be separate from these groups because they want to consume and eat our identity as if it's a piece of fruit that they're harvesting. And that is the most sick and vile thing to do to any human being, to say that they don't exist, but I want to benefit off of what you have done. So I'll digress from there because I want to be sensitive to people's time. Please read my book, Dana. I sent it to you so we can
I know
really
you
have
did.
some
I
deep
am. I
conversations
am going to
about
read it.
fraud.
I am going to get to it. I am going to start reading it. Just real quick, Linda in YouTube, and shout out to everybody on YouTube. She says this poor guy is getting a beating and didn't do anything wrong. Linda, I don't know if you are white, well, because your last name is Joza. I don't know if that's Latin or Hispanic. I don't know, but I could tell that you are non-Black American. And this is what pisses me off. And first of all, I am no damn victim. I'm always going to strive to be a victor. But what pisses me off is people who are non-Black Americans. You have no right, no authority. You have no common sense. You are not in a position to ever sit up here and try to massage. Oh well, he didn't mean it that way. He really meant it that way, and he didn't do anything. He did everything wrong with what he was saying. And no, just and I'm not saying he's a bad person. What I'm saying, the moment anybody sit up here and say the statement that you made, Sim, that Black people were fucking taught to separate from white people, that is a
Some
fucking
are.
lie. That is a motherfucking lie. A fucking lie. And I'm using the fucking F word right now. Don't ever disrespect Black Americans by saying that dumb shit. And I know I'm cool with people of all fucking backgrounds. And people who I personally know would never even say no dumb shit like that. Black people, we always have been a group of people that embrace every fucking body from other groups. And we, to the point to where we need to stop doing that shit because it doesn't help us. When you look at Asians, Chinese, Africans, Caribbeans, whatever, when they come here to America, they come to where we live at and start. Whether they open up a business, whether they're living here, they come to our fucking community. We don't shun them, but I think we probably should. But I digress from that. So don't ever fucking sit up here and say that we were taught to separate from white people. It's always been the other way around. So I'm highly offended with that bullshit. And that's why I put a red question mark on your lineage background and on your own fucking psychology. Because I think you're a
Because
little
some
bit
people
off.
are. So you don't think I've been around
Bro,
black
move
people who do
around,
I
bro.
separate
don't
from
I
It's
white
don't I
about
don't
people?
you.
care. At this point, I don't really give a fuck who you've been around. And I'm gonna go to JV. So you could just stay muted. I'm gonna go to JV and I'm gonna go to other people because
Yeah, but you said that I
I'm
could
not gonna
finish.
sit
You
up here.
said,
I'm not gonna sit up here and what I'm saying, be insulted by someone who don't even know nothing about American history, number one, and you don't have the intellectual capacity to have to be in this type of
you
conversation.
said that I could respond to what you
Well,
said.
no,
But
now I'm
you're not
saying
letting.
you can't. Now I'm saying you can't because you offended me and you offended Black Americans by that one statement to say that Black Americans were taught to separate from white people. So Peter, you could drop him down a listener.
No, I said
I'm
that
dead
some.
ass serious. I'm dead ass serious.
I dropped him, Dana.
Go ahead, JV.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is edifying. I don't think this should be a conflict with that. If you said something to recognize your disconnect, like lean into the fact that that's a problem. But I wanted to speak to like these dismissive statements that one were victims or the other thing that well there's a bunch of rich black people these are forms of hostility whether y'all recognize it or not, and I can break it down. A person is not a victim who advocates to their government. We pay into our tax system, right? Quid pro quo, something for something. So we have the right to argue our needs and our wants and our neglect. Those things should happen. For somebody to say that's a victim, you're a hostile, right? Especially if you're not really even native from here. If you don't have much sweat equity in this land, why would you do that? Like, that's problematic. I don't see that as a friendly. I see that as a dissenter or an insurgent. Like you can't go in many lands in this world, you can't go there and tell the people not to advocate to their government, to their leadership, to say, hey, this is where a harm happened. This is where a social failure happened. And we need some type of reconciliation. To say they're victims, no, you're hostile. That's a fact. And to say there's a bunch of black millionaires, well, put it in context. There's 40 million of us, upwards of 50. That doesn't change the. Oh, on my audio drop. Can y'all hear me?
You
Hello?
rugged a little bit, but we can hear you now, JV.
Oh yeah, my audio dropped. Yeah, to say there's a few millionaires, that's also a dismissive strategy. These are tactics of war to like make you focus on something that has really nothing to do with the larger argument. The larger argument, there are social failures. We have a gross uh, prison industrial complex. We have lack of prenatal care. We have income inequality. This is the conversation. The conversation is not a stingy few of millionaires, right? Even if that's true, that doesn't correct the argument. It's like these are evasive tactics to make you say, hey, you're not harmed. I'm gonna gaslight you. I'm not gonna recognize these environmental issues, these social environmental issues that you're dealing with. Because look at these guys, they're sitting on top of the hill. They're amazing. A sprinkle fill view, right? Like so, like you guys need to like rest in your own reality and remember what your job was, why you were inserted here, and why you were activated. Like you're some kind of Mercury candidate. Like what is your job to like exacerbate the hostility? Because you came into a hostile environment. I need you guys to know that this is not a friendly environment. So when you come into this environment and say, "Hey, don't look at your harm. Look at that guy on the hill. He's doing great." Like, well, that's not the argument. The argument is that we have failures in our communities. These things are real, and we have to speak to it. We have to lobby. We have to advocate. We have to speak. We have to galvanize. We need political education. We need all these things. That needs to happen. So, um, be careful because you guys are coming off like some type of a mercenaries. Like, why were you sent here? Why did they birth you here? Were you here to offset our forward march? Because I don't think that would work in any other country. They would get rid of you overnight. In fact, they would get rid of you yesterday.
Hmm.
Thank you, man.
All right, I'm gonna start winding down. I'm gonna go to Art, and I'll just go around. Everybody could give like their last remarks. And Linda on YouTube, Linda says she's white. Okay, and see Linda, and that is why you made the comment you made. And honest, and it's like past midnight, so I get like tired. But yeah, and this is what I mean when people who are not Black American, but you think you can speak to a Black American experience and you cannot. Yeah, she's white. All right, go ahead.
But Dana, one really
Yeah,
quick.
go
Do you
ahead.
think that there, because black people are not a monolith, do you think there are black people that think or interpret things the way that I've been interpreting it?
No. So we're not a
Not
monolith
one.
as far as yeah, when you talk about, listen, I'm a Republican. I used to be a Democrat. My father, he's a Democrat. Oh, honey, I hear him on the phone every day talking, anti-Trump or whatever, and that's fine or whatever. We're not a monolith. But what we are a monolith with is our experience here in America and our lineage. Whether whether there are some black people that don't whose lineage never been quote unquote enslaved, but they still experience Jim Crow. But then majority of black Americans lineage have been enslaved. So the experience here in America is a monolith. And that's what I'm talking about. So when you have a non-black person or a so-called half black or whatever, but definitely non-black person trying to tell you about the black experience and you're incorrect about that shit, no. So no, you can't I can't speak to Russian or Ukrainian, Chinese, and even countries in Africa. I can't speak to their experience from their lineage. I can only speak to mine, just like you cannot speak to mine. So no, we're not a monolith when it comes to a black American experience. Our
Like you said,
historical
you were. You
experience.
said you were a monolith for
I
the
mean, no, I'm
experience.
sorry. We
Yeah,
are
yeah,
we
yeah.
are a monolith when it comes to Black American experience. When it comes to the history of Black Americans, yes, we are a monolith in that way, in that aspect. However, we do have the W.E.B. Du Bois Black people, and we have the Booker T. Washington, Booker T. Washington Black people. Not a monolith, but they talk about the Black experience is still the same. Do you
Got you.
understand that?
I got you. Yeah, 1000%. Hmm.
I'm more of W.E.B. Du Bois to a certain degree when you talk about the talented 10, to whereas I know a friend of mine, she is more Booker T. Washington. But, not a monolith, but still a monolith. Uh,
Got you.
um,
You want to go to art?
yeah, go ahead.
Art, go ahead.
Yeah, a lot of these conversations be so much not numbers. Uh, Peter asked the question in revolving around numbers. I just feel like the numbers never got back addressed. Uh, Peter, can you give me that number about the millionaires you said again? You said how many black millionaires are there?
1.78 million.
Okay, so you do know that that's probably, I think, 2021, because as of 2024, the percentage of uh, white millionaires was 84% or 85%, not leaving much percentage for the rest of the group. And I'm pretty sure, as you know, white people do not make up 85% of the populace, right?
Yeah,
You're
wait,
aware.
wait a second. You said 85% of white people are millionaires?
Yeah, yeah. The millionaires, 85% of the millionaires are white.
Oh, of the group of millionaires, 85% of those millionaires are white.
Yes,
Okay.
and that doesn't reflect the general populace because they don't make up 85% of the population. You see what I'm saying?
Right. I
Okay,
got
so
you.
and that's 2024. I don't know what it is for black, so I'm gonna. I just wanted to make you aware of that, but I'm gonna stick with the 2021 stats where I think it's like 74% or 75% or something like that, which is still well above the 60% that white people make up of the general populace. And so, and then when you contrast that, so now you have an overrepresentation for the white populace to millionaires, but then you have an underrepresentation when you hit black people because black people only make up, I think it's 8% of the millionaires. Now, this is the kicker. Now, I'm using, it went down in, like I said, in 2024, but even more of a kicker, even if I stay in 2021, guess what? Not all those are black Americans.
Because white people are white people. I mean, white people are black people, and black
Okay,
people are white
No.
people.
King, honey, I keep forgetting who you are until you get off that mute button. I hear your voice. I'm like, oh, that's King, because I probably won't let you up here. We about to wind down, King, and I'm thinking it's Friday night. It's only Thursday. Damn, King, we about to wind down. Can you just mute? Because I need to go around the room and let people have their final thoughts. Thanks. Um,
Well, I think Art was still in the middle of his
yeah,
point.
go ahead,
Art.
Art. Yes, go
Yeah.
ahead, Art.
Still on
Art.
mute, sorry.
There you go.
But yeah. So I just wanted to put that out there. So on top of all that, even if I said there was 8%, um, there's a disproportionate amount of people. It's 8%, but then you have that black immigrants. That was my case in point.
Right. You were
That
saying,
make
yeah,
up a
that's not FBAs. That's also including quote unquote
Now,
tethers,
let me
right?
show you how good, how sort of some of these disparities are. I don't know the disparity on that because there's not a lot of data, but there is a school disparity that they did track, which was college tuition that was supposed to go to Black Americans. Come to find out, they represented Black immigrants represented almost 50% of those things.
Because they're white. They classify themselves as
How did King get back here? So you see what I'm saying, Peter? So like they make up 50% of what's supposed to go to Black Americans, but we can all say that they're not 50% of the Black American populace. So you can clearly see the problem here. And if and I'm not saying it's going to be that superior of a contrast in the millionaires, but if it's anywhere close, you can start to see a problem when you're already underrepresented to begin with. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get your point.
by design, a very unique design that has been recognized because
King, you have to
Yo,
stay on
bro, what's
mute.
wrong with you,
Come
bro?
on, man. Come on,
no,
bro.
no, 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 no.
All right, I'm dropping
You
you.
got
I
I'm
Tourette's
dropping you.
syndrome.
yeah,
You
just
got you
drop him
got
down
Tourette's
because
syndrome.
I'm gonna get to I'm gonna go to Gerard
Okay,
Brick,
thanks.
Gerard Brick, Chip, the Negro, and I guess
I'm,
JB, and then that'll be and then Peter, you could close us out. Go ahead, Gerard.
yeah, thanks for letting me finish and close it out. My final statements on this are this, right? I want to say that JV pretty much covered a lot of the points that I was going to respond to in terms of some of the things I was hearing in terms of like victimhood and things like that. Those kind of tropes, which is very interesting pathology that you have to kind of recite those kind of talking points in the midst of um, aggression, in the midst of being in an aggressive environment, hostile environment. I want to liken everything to mosquitoes. I'm going to end it with this. Uh, we know that the solution to getting bit by a mosquito, right? The mosquito has an objective, needs to draw your blood. If the mosquito could speak perfect English, I'm sure it would try to rationalize with you. It would try to have a conversation and try to justify why you should allow it to take your blood and give you malaria and XYZ. Right? It would try to reason with you. It would probably tell you things like, "Oh, it's just a little bite. You're being a victim. You should work hard while I'm biting you. Don't worry about it." And huh, don't complain about that. And we all know that the solution would be to squash the mosquito, right? Squash it or put it somewhere else and let it suck something else's blood, right? But what would that mean? What would that mean if I was not in the state of discussing my problem or trying to say, "Hey, mosquito, I don't want you biting me." And every time I talk to the mosquito and tell it I don't want it biting me, it tells me I'm playing the victim. Well, Mr. Mosquito, I have another solution. I could just squash you, right? But what would that look like? You wouldn't exist anymore, would you, Mr. Mosquito? So we're in a real dilemma here. So the reality is that something's going to happen and something's going to change. And that's why America's history looks the way it does. I think we know it's tattered with every decade or so. We have some kind of explosion in the country. When I say explosion, I mean massive conflict between the same groups of people. Same media gets on and sells the same lies. So you tell me, what should we do about this relationship, you know, that we're seemingly having? I mean, what should we do?
Jara, is it a class struggle or is it exclusively race?
I'm not debating mosquito. I'm off the mic.
The answer. Can I answer
I
that
got
question
the
real quick?
So
subtext.
it's late.
Yep, I got you.
Well, can I answer that question real quick? I just want to say that for in our context, it's class and race, and for other people, it's just class. So there's two dynamics, Peter.
I got you. I understand because you could be white and you don't have to deal with the race issue. You just have to deal with the class issue, right? Gotcha.
Yeah. Who was Brick? Brickton Chip, JV, the Negro. Brick, are you still there? Brick Fair?
You might be taking a snooze. You want to
Yeah.
go to the Negro?
Yeah. Oh, well, I want to go to Chip. Chip, you still there?
Yeah, Dana, I'm still here. My closing thoughts are this is great when we could speak and have a conversation. I just hate it when people are like, "No, you don't have the right to speak. I'm not speaking." I just feel like that just kind of like destroys the conversation and any progress that has been made. Like just because someone can't have a voice because they're other than, So like, but other than that, I love it, and I love it when we can get together and like speak and like share things together. It's amazing. Thank you so much for hosting the space.
Well, what were you talking about when I was saying that to Sim?
No, what this guy just did to Peter, where he's like, "You're the other" or whatever, like that was super disrespectful.
Who said
Real,
that?
real quick. Hold on a minute.
Gerard?
Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute.
What did he
Let me
say?
come
Because
back.
Duran said I was the mosquito, basically.
No, really. Hold on. Hold on, really
It's
quick. Hold
okay.
on. Hold
We
on.
got it. We're not
No,
stupid.
no, 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 no. What's disrespectful there, Chip? Right? Is that continuously have conversations about something that is actually happening, a hostile environment, something that's actually happening to me right now, actually. And right now I'm engaged in something I can't talk about. It's a legal matter, but I'm gonna have to go forward with it because I'm a fighter and I'm gonna uh extract some dollars from this situation because I'm not gonna allow uh racist environments and racial hostility to take away from the money that I could put in my pocket. I'm going to make those racists pay for it. But unfortunately, that's what you have to do as a Black American when you're in environments where people like yourself, Chip, who seem to not understand the concept, where you're causing harm to people because of your ideology. And when you get in groups, you're quite dangerous to people like me. And then you turn around and for some morbid reason, morbid curiosity reason, and for those of you who don't know what that means, it's just for the sake of because you just like to see the maybe something grotesque or you're just curious about like it's kind of like when a kid squishes an ant. He wants to see what happens. Ooh, let me ask those people what's happening. You clearly see what's happening. You clearly know what's happening. What other reason could you be asking? And then,
You're
and then you don't,
projecting your anger
you
onto
know,
me. I'm coming from a sincere
what
place.
up
You're
here?
just projecting your anger,
You
dude.
call it, how dare you call me sensitive? See, this is the psychotic part about the people like you that have your kind of mentality. You see, it's funny because I'm actually experiencing a harm, and you're trying to tell me about what I'm experiencing and my
I'm
levels
not
of
telling you what you're
sensitivity. You
experiencing.
could
I'm telling you
never,
what you're
Chip, you
doing.
could never
You're
be as tough as me.
projecting right
Chip,
now
you could never
onto.
be as tough as me. Chip, you could never be as tough as me. I guarantee you, on my worst day and on your best day, you couldn't be as tough as me. So let's just move on from the
What does
conversation.
that mean, though? What does toughness mean?
Toughen up, because in reality, you were the one who was crying about how Peter was treated. That's the reality. Peter laughed it off, and you started crying about it, Chip.
I
So
didn't
please
cry
don't
about
tell
it.
me
I
about
brought it up.
that. No, stop
I brought it
crying.
up. So
Stop
I
crying,
could
Chip.
say this whole space
Stop
you've been
crying,
crying
Chip.
about everything you've been
Stop
speaking
crying,
about.
Chip. You're sounding real weak. Stand up for your people. Represent your people, man.
Bro, I could say
Don't get
you've
on the
been
chin,
crying
man. Keep
about
it moving.
everything we've been speaking about
Don't
too.
have my name come out your mouth. You want to exchange addresses
I
and
don't
talk on
even
the
know
back
your
end, we can do
name.
that.
I don't even know who
Don't do
you
that.
are.
No, if you want to exchange addresses and talk on the back end, we could do that. But right now, let the people talk, man.
Mic drop. Let the people talk.
The Negro, do you want to hop in?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So there's a couple of things that I wanted to address. First things first, we are a monolith when it comes to reparations per se. Three-fourths of Negro Black American people believe that the enslaved people should get reparations at 77%. That's coming from Pew Research. The other thing that I do wanted to highlight, depending on the goal of how we want to execute that, that's up to debate. But the main thing is that we are a monolith as a people, that we're past I would say 50% of our collective people that is down for reparations. While white American people are, I think, 17 or 18% based off of Pew Research. It's in the purple pill for those that want to dispute it or whatever. One of the things I find very concerning is that people do not understand our constitutional rights. And also, if they did understand the premise of First Amendment rights, because that's what everybody talks about, that they have a right to say anything and this, that, and the third, they will understand. And shout out to my man Snugsy on this, because I have that screenshotted as well. We have a right to petition and to protect, which protects the rights to ask the government to address grievances and seek redress. We're out here seeking redress and repair for the crimes that had happened to our people. And you have people that are against our constitutional rights, against our human rights. I find that that's very, very problematic. And it shows that in these school systems, people are not educated on what the constitutional rights really are. Because if they were, they wouldn't be against American citizens seeking redress. They should be looked at as terrorists. They should be looked up as people that are beyond anti-black, but almost damn near Confederates or reconstructed Confederates. That's where I'm kind of going at when I hear certain individuals have this rhetoric, but yet still they want to uphold the Constitution for themselves, but not for the rest of the other American public. That is very, very extreme to even have that perspective, especially if they immigrated over to a nation that they never built, that their ancestors never built, but they have this type of notion in the mind, which leads me to believe, what are they teaching some of these immigrants when they come over here to become naturalized citizens? And should Negro Black American people be more invested in the immigration process to make sure that extremist personalities are not coming into the American fabric, disrupting things like Black History Month and things that make America what it truly is? All I'm seeing is groups of immigrants that are African, and etc., or through the diaspora or whatnot, are taking advantage of the exploitation of Negro American people through the guise of fraud. If they're lying on government documentation saying that they're black and they're not Black Americans, that's a problem. And instead of American public looking at this as um, an act that is punishable by law from a federal sense and etc., they're okay with the fraud because they want to keep Negro Black American people down and keep them oppressed. So they're even willing to throw in melanated immigrants to further the oppression of our people. So those are just some of the things that I want people to get my book, Delineationology, because I go into extensive detail about the melanin misrepresentation and other fraud schemes that other ethnic groups do to Negro Black American people. And this is the reason why we should delineate, we should separate, and we should organize. And Sister Dana said, what can we do about it? It's one, educate ourselves. Two, it's definitely, if you're a Negro Black American, delineate yourself and advocate for reparations because it's our God-given right, first of all, and second of all, it's our constitutional right. Anything less than that and anybody that's against it, they should be looked as a terrorist to the United States government because they're against American citizens. Thank you, Dana, for giving me the floor. Thanks, Peter. Salute. I hope you guys take a look at the purple pill and please educate yourselves on your constitutional rights because we know that the system that we're in educationally is not going to teach you. Salute, and you guys have a great afternoon or great night, I meant.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thanks.
Who's
Appreciate it.
next?
Yeah, I
Was
was
that,
next.
oh,
I was
JV?
next.
JV.
Yeah,
JV.
I
Did
was.
we hear from? We didn't hear from Art too. So JV and then Art.
Yeah. Shout out to the room, Dana, Peter, Art, Chip, Negro. Like Gerard, like this was fucking amazing. I respect everything people were saying to some degree of variances. I want to recognize what Gerard said, that mosquito analogy was awesome. Like you want to draw blood and like try to rationalize why you're drawing blood. That's fucking crazy. And what Negro did, in respect for time, I'm gonna let somebody else talk. That is so great, bro. Like that's the opposite of a narcissist. That's a man who is confident in his argument. That was fucking brilliant. Respect to you, the Negro. But to the title, right? So in closing, right? Are Africans outpacing Black Americans? Insert anybody there. Are ex people outpacing Black Americans? Russians, Venezuelans, Trinidadians, whatever, like Yugoslavians, are they outpacing Black Americans? All right, let's tackle that issue, right? Are they? Is that an issue? Is that or a solution, right? Because like change it around. Are Black Americans outpacing whatever country in their country? I think that would be a problem. The example I would use in 2021, there was a group of Black American women in Bali, Southeast Asia, Southeast Asia, and they were communicating on the internet how good they were doing, living great in a tree house, doing their goddamn thing. You know what their government did? Got them the hell out of there. You got to go. You can't sit here in my country and try to propagate or perpetuate how great you're doing in my country. My people are dealing with what they got going on. So, like, I don't know what's going on in America where we act like this is not a thing. People don't take this lightly. This is hostility. You don't go into a person's country and try to shit on them. You don't go into a person's country and say, "Hey, I'm so fucking amazing." Well, what does that look like for the people there? This is a problem. And I think Black Americans have been so receptive, let people come into our community, extract our economy by building their little stores and their bodegas or whatever the fuck they build. I'm sorry, Dan, I made a curse. Or whatever else. It's like we shouldn't have that conversation. Like you're a hostile. This is a problem. So can Africans outpace Black Americans? Sure. God bless you. But don't use that as political leverage because I can't do that to you. It would be blood on your streets if I do that in your country, right? You would get us the hell out of there. So let's stop pretending like we need to be some type of beacon of light for the world. Because the world are not a beacon of light. They're not here to spread light. They're here to spread darkness. And you can't spread darkness amongst light. So like let's make that clear. Shout out to the room. Shout out to you, Negro. I respect the people's time, so I'm gonna get off the mic. Respect to my brother, Jarrah, the mosquito will rationalize drawing your blood and give you malaria. And shout out to Dana for having a great room.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Um, I think this was, you know what, Peter? I think we got up the most, probably 25, 30 people. And for some reason, I enjoy smaller spaces than spaces with a whole lot of people because then it just gets kind of chaotic. I think this was a good conversation. Everybody, I really respect and appreciate everybody's commentary and perspectives and things that they had to say. And I always like to walk away learning something from everyone. And I honestly, I don't get upset, when people say certain things, but that it's not even that it triggered me. That really pissed me the fuck off when you trying to say that Black people were taught basically, you know, um, to show any hatred towards another group, considering what we've been through here. Like that, I will not never tolerate. So every group got something wrong with their group. It's just life. But don't sit up here and try to say that shit considering all the things that Black Americans went through. So but other than that, I think it was a good space. And I guess Sunday, Peter, Sunday, I'll be
Beautiful.
pulling you into another space.
Yeah, I'll be here. It'll be great.
And then too, and even if everyone has a right to comment or engage in any type of conversation, you have the right to do that. Only thing I'm saying is you don't have the right to sit up here and say, "Oh, this is who you are," when you are not educated enough about one's that said person history.
Well, they have the right. I would say even they have the right to say it and be in the room, and we invite it. But don't be surprised when you also have the right to get bitten and barked back at. So, and get
Yeah,
corrected,
bitten and
right?
barked back and corrected, whether you think it's a correction that needed to be corrected or not. No, just I'm just correcting you with your nonsense. Like, don't do that. Because if I was to say something about a country in Eastern, like Albanians, like that was a genocide that happened to them.
I was, you know what, Dana? I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to bring that up. I was actually reading about Slobodan Milosevic while we were in the middle of the space, and I have a lot of Albanian friends, and they hate him. And like, I had friends that left, like Yonkers and Queens, to go back like as teenagers and fight over there. And like, it was no joke. It was an ethnic cleansing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's why they stick together. They like to marry within so that they could build up their lineage. So again, is that my experience? No, but when I say Black Americans had genocides against them by our government, that is a fact. Whether you can accept that or not, but again, I just saying, like, if you're not, you cannot. I can never tell an Albanian or anybody else what their lineage or how their group of people are
Or their lived
or how they
experience,
were
right?
taught
That's
or their
their lived, correct. Yes.
right.
Hmm.
And even if they were born, after the fact, after that genocide, it don't matter. Like, that's still your lineage. That's still part of your history. So yeah, and I think we all need to. That's what I'm saying. Like, educate ourselves on different backgrounds and the history of different people backgrounds is very important because a lot of times we have a lot more in common than we do not. So
I want to point out also that there's a large portion of Black Americans whose family has fought in every war, including the Revolutionary War, and we have yet to have a Black American president. I don't count Anchor Baby from Kenya.
I know that's
I'm
right.
sorry, just don't. Like, he's literally just not an Anchor Baby for me. Like, what is that?
But and this is what and to that's a great point, Art. And to that, when I say Black people need to take accountability, we wasn't thinking about no damn anchor baby or him not being a Black American. We was like, that's a Black man, he's Black American, and I'm voting for him. And that's solely why 95% of Black Americans voted for Barack Obama. And we got to take accountability and look back and say, I was wrong for voting in that manner. I was wrong
Well,
for
the
voting
majority
for
of Black
identity politics.
I want to push back on that too because the majority of Black Americans, shout out to them because Black non-voters was the biggest group growing group last election. The majority of Black Americans don't vote.
The majority of what?
So yeah, the voters did the messed up thing,
No,
but
but
let's
there
not
were but
add
even
that to
the
the whole
people
Black
wait, even all
community.
right, even the people that normally don't vote, they voted for Obama. They got up off their ass and voted.
They might have had thing, but again, non-voters have been the majority of this country. Period,
No,
disproportionately
the
Black, of
majority is
course,
not
but
non-voters. That I totally disagree with you.
yes, when you go by population and not eligible voters, because eligible voters, prisoners, et cetera, or just random people just can't vote, and a whole bunch of I don't like getting into that.
But
But
all right,
population wise, they are
the
the
voters
biggest.
didn't vote majority though. So remember, they don't vote as a majority. The voters are at a majority vote that way.
Voters
But
have
see,
never
Art, but
been a
that's
No,
what
no,
I
majority
no.
of the
mean.
Art,
Black
Like,
art.
community.
okay,
You're not
so Art,
understanding.
wait 1 second. So I just said Black people need to take accountability for voting for Obama. And there you go, giving me pushback and excuse. But I'm sorry. Black people were wrong.
I mean, some Black people
No,
need to
no.
do that.
Art,
That's what I'm
the
trying to get at
voters.
because we try to put Black people in a
Art, the
box
voters.
like they're all one monolithic
Art,
thing,
Black
and it's
people
art. The
were
not.
voter.
monolithic when they was voting for Barack Obama twice.
Right, right.
Especially
The
that first
voters.
time. That is a whole fact.
Again, there was still
No, no,
non-voters.
no.
Art.
But you're
And I
changing the
talked to them.
conversation. Art, the voters are operate at a monolith. You agree?
Yeah, but that's insinuating that voters speak for the
No, no,
No,
majority.
no,
I'm
we're
not
Art,
not
even talking about
insinuating. We're
you're
making
not
that
speaking
point.
understanding
for
what I'm
anything.
saying. You're not
Well,
understanding. You're not understanding.
Art.
Listen, Black people voted for Barack Obama, especially that first
Not Black
term.
people, Black
Black
voters.
people
Voters.
voted.
Black voters
Voters. That's the
voted for Obama.
conversation. Art.
Black
What
people
are you,
didn't
yeah,
do
Art,
No,
what are you
anything.
talking
voters.
about? Art, please let me just mute you up,
Why?
Art, because you again, you're not taking accountability. And that's
It
what
ain't
I
got
mean
nothing to
about
do with accountability.
accountability.
I didn't vote
That's
for
exactly
Obama.
what I mean about accountability. It's nothing wrong with taking accountability. White people need to take accountability. Certain immigrants need to take, every group needs to take accountability for their shortcomings because you do have them. And black people voting, 99% of black Americans voted for Barack Obama. That is a whole fact. And you voted for him because he was a black man. He was a black man. He was a black man.
So, Dana, technically, the first FBA president could be Michelle Obama.
If she were to win, but what I'm saying here is we weren't thinking where was he. We knew we were looking at him. Okay, he's American. He was born here. He's black American. That's all we needed. That's all we needed. We didn't care about dad or stepdad, the CIA or George Bush being the cousins. We didn't care about none of that. Second term, he had a little bit of question marks, but black people's like, oh, he was the first black man. You got to give him a second chance. He couldn't do nothing in 4 years. Again, eyes closed. The accountability is don't vote because someone looks like you. And if black people's, as art, you just gave the prime example, like you pushing back on something like black people were wrong for voting Obama because he was black, and that's why they fucking voted for him. I admit to that, voted for his ass fucking twice, and I'll never vote identity politics again. But Peter closes out.
Yeah, great space. This was really insightful, and I really love the conversation. It's a great topic. And I wanted to say that Jar, you made some really good points, and I want to examine my own perspective and try to look at it through the lens that you are presenting, because I would be super upset if I went through what you're talking about going through and having to get redress through the court system to be able to have something fair happen. And I'm not saying that to pander to you or any of that nonsense. I'm being genuine. I want everybody in this room to do well and to experience prosperity and happiness ultimately. Because what's the point of having anything if you're not happy? So yeah, Dana, I enjoyed the space, and I look forward to Sunday.
And I always enjoy co-hosting with you. Nia, we're closing out. So sorry, we're not going to bring up any new speakers. Hi, April. We've been going on for a little over 3 hours. Honey, my carriage done turned into a pumpkin. All right, everybody, have a wonderful week, and we'll see you on Sunday. I don't know, maybe we talk about Cory Booker's slick ass or something. All right.
Ooh, I have some information from him from
You
back in
know
the
what?
day. But
I probably should have talked about him tonight and saved this for Sunday, but whatever. Um,
Well, set it up. Set it up. Sunday.
okay, cool.
imagine we can get him in here.
Oh,
Wait, hold
Cory
on.
Booker. He
Hold
ain't
on.
gonna bring
Yeah.
his
Let her
ass up in here
let her set it up. Set it up, Dana.
about Cory Booker.
Yeah, for the Sunday room.
Yeah. All right. I'll do that. All right, everybody.